in Barnet. They suffered stab wounds in the attack and are now being looked after in hospital.
We need to make sure that when people carry out these activities, they feel the full force of the law. People think they can get away with this. The person who firebombed a few weeks ago is out on bail. That's not full force of the law.
This crisis, it's a crisis for all of us. It's not enough to simply say we stand with Jewish communities. Of course we do, but we must show it and act it. And the responsibility lies with each and every one of us, because it is our fight too.
Let's stop importing people from countries where anti-Semitism is the norm. And if the London Mayor, Sadiq Khan, in his infinite wisdom and belief in diversity, thinks that's the sort of diverse view that it's OK to have on the streets of London and the police don't get involved, don't be shocked, and don't you bloody dare claim to be shocked or upset or care about Jewish people being stabbed on the streets of our capital city in broad daylight. This is on you.
You keep getting proven right every single time. Jews are not safe in this country.
Well, absolutely. No one can be surprised or feeling shocked that this happened. No Jew certainly is. I mean, we had Zach Balansky last week saying this was just a perceived threat. Well, we can see this isn't any perception. This is real. This is happening on the streets. This isn't just an anti-Semitic terror attack. This is an attack on Britain, on the Western liberal democracy and values.
The first politician that uses the word shocking, I might just go and throttle him, because this is anything but shocking. It's the most expected thing is almost overdue, if you ask me, because, I mean, I just left Israel last week. I thought it would be the last time we were woken up by explosions, but clearly not.
The Jewish community is our community, and their safety is our safety. And we have to make it absolutely clear, robust, strong leadership, and this has to stop, because otherwise it's going to be, it's almost being normalised, and it's terrifying, and we're sick. Enough's enough.
Our plan is a complete step change in how we protect communities, moving beyond piecemeal responses to a sustained nationwide effort, one that ensures that people across the United Kingdom can live freely and without fear.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is
Hey, very good morning. Just gone 6 o'clock. You are live across the United Kingdom with Talk, the home of common sense, and where you and your views on the day's news are heard and listened to. Thank you so much, by the way, for your response to the show. It went viral. We ended up on Fox in America simply for telling the truth. I'm not going to mess around with this issue. This issue is so important and so large, and we will be as honest and as open today as we were yesterday. As ever, my friends, top team here, taking your calls if you want to be on 0344 499 1000. Only number you need in town. Who's going to put that first voice note in? What's today's prize? I've got a banana. You can win a banana. Great. Text 87222. Dean, Tommy, Mark, Neha. We're all in, OK? This is your station. This is your place for honesty and truth. Listen, let's report the facts. The news, you're waking up to a second night of unrest and violence in Belfast. Rioters clashing again with police, particularly near a hotel housing migrants. This comes as new details emerged of basically how you can get asylum in Great Britain under a fast-track scheme that was introduced, yeah, lo and behold, by the last government. Front page of the Telegraph, smugglers guarantee UK entry via Ireland. Honestly, just get to the Republic, go to the common travel area, get a bus and we'll get you in there. It's not a problem. You know that whole rubbish from Starmer about how it'll be one in, one out? Check the front page of the Times today. Only one single migrant sent back after crossing the Irish border. It's an absolute joke, man, isn't it? Reforms. Suella Braverman and Robert Jenrick coming under a bit of pressure today. They were at the helm of the Home Office when this fast-track scheme was introduced. In their defence, people are saying, which is justifiable, that both resigned from Sunak's government because they were unhappy with the system that was in place. And by the way, just because I actually don't want this to sound bad, I don't spend my off time listening to radio. If I do, it's talk, but I tend to get on with trying to bring up 6 kids. But I happened to be in the car yesterday when the amazing Kevin O'Sullivan, I love his drive show, had a lady from the Alliance Party in Ireland called Nuala, I hope I've got the right, McAllister. Now, on the day that I can officially tell you a new poll suggests that 1 in 3 Britons believe police treat ethnic minorities more favourably than white people. On the day to the week where we saw Henry Novak die in front of police because they believed a Sikh gentleman who was using the racist card, and just 48 hours after we saw a Sudanese immigrant who got into this country illegally try and behead a fellow human being in broad daylight, right? This woman told Kevin O'Sullivan that the riots that none of us condone, by the way, love, was nothing to do with migrants. Have a watch.
What is your feeling about what should be done about this? Because there is this kind of weird backdoor route into the UK via the border.
I have to interrupt you there because I actually don't believe that the trigger for this has been the migrant crisis. I think the trigger for this is people using it.
You think they just did it for no reason whatsoever? You think they rioted last night for no reason?
I think the people are using this as an
Nuala, they didn't riot for no reason.
They are using this as an opportunity.
Well, hang on, Nuala, they did not riot for no reason.
There have been plenty of people who've come on.
So why did they riot? Why did they take to the streets last night?
There have been plenty of.
Why did they? Can you answer that question? Why did they take to the streets last night then?
They took to the streets last night because they were thugs who wanted to engage in violence.
What about the peaceful protesters? There were peaceful protesters all over Northern Ireland as well.
People have a perfectly right. They have a right, as they always should, to protest.
Yes,
but people do not have a right to illegally protest. But there is always going to be a difference of opinion when it does come to whether it's a legal migrant or an illegal migrant, whether it's a person who has come here to seek refuge or whether it's someone who's come here to work.
Can I do it again? Sorry, I promised my wife today I wouldn't be so angry. Sorry. I am sick and tired of hearing people say, well, we'd have to wait and see whether that person was in fact seeking refuge. Whatever that piece of crap's name is, who's hopefully, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen to as an ongoing case, right? The guy who thought it was OK to behead a fellow human being, try and behead him with a knife, didn't go to the United Kingdom because he wanted to embrace our culture or learn our language or give something back. He came here because we're as soft as whatever to take advantage, and because he comes from a country, let's have it again, sorry, where the same value set is not in place. They don't believe in where he comes from that treating women the same and right way is good. In fact, almost everything about this human being is alien. Oh my God, I've upset people by saying it's an alien culture. One person I haven't upset is the legendary Poppy Coburn, who is back today and very happy because she's moving into a new flat on Monday. How are you, love?
I'm very good. You know, I just listened to that clip. Politicians do this thing that I just love. Kemi Badenoch did the same thing yesterday. They tell you, you have a right to protest. Oh, do I? Thanks. Thanks for telling me that I have a right to come out and protest. I'm really glad. Do I have a right to complain as well online? Because it seems like you're trying to take that one away from me as well. Do I have a right to be upset with any of the policies that your government tries to do to us? Do I have a right to do that? Oh, thanks for letting me know.
Do you know what winds me up more, though, and I freely admit it wound me up hysterically yesterday, is there is no part of me that will condone those violent scenes. I think the people, innocent people forced out of their houses, right? Innocent people. Kev told a story about a woman who's lived in Ireland all her life and a dog perished in it. I mean, horrible, horrible, horrible stories, right? Completely get that. But if Starmer, who did his usual, of course you don't condone the violence, but he didn't talk about the issue that caused it. And I said this yesterday, and I will put this to you. I will never condone the violence, but unless we in this country understand there is a simmering, boiling resentment and revulsion and anger and despair about how we are being treated by a government that doesn't listen, who seems to favour anybody and everybody over us, sorry, the indigenous population, I think that's a perfectly good description of what the hell's going on. And politicians, I know your job is to stand there and go, nobody wants riots. But you're going to have to find a damn answer as to what you're going to do to stop people, because they don't think any government's helping them, do they?
If you want to stop the riots, if you actually care, because it's the second year in a row now that we've had multiple riots across the United Kingdom, if you want to stop them from happening, there's a common cause that sets them off. You need to fix the asylum system and remove the people who are in the country who should never have been here in the first place. That is the only way you will stop these disturbances. It doesn't matter if you blame it on Nigel Farage, it doesn't matter if you shut down social media, it doesn't matter if you jail people. You are not going to stop these riots from happening, because you're going to continue to see these scenes of atrocities, because that's what it is. When a man is getting beheaded in the street, nearly beheaded in the street, that is an atrocity. When 3 girls are being stabbed by someone whose parents were let into the country, that is an atrocity. People are going to respond rationally to that, OK? And you're going to get people where the temperatures are running high, where you are going to see scenes of horrible disturbance, and it is going to put people's lives at risk.
Completely
if you
agree.
are a responsible government, it is your job to stop people rioting by making sure that it never gets to that point.
Answering the question. So yesterday, we did all of this show. You've got Kev on Drive Time with the woman going, it's all migrants. It's not all migrants. You're being unfair. People are seeking refuge. Well, my old argument stands up, doesn't it? If you left Sudan, where there has been civil war, you have to travel through 7 safe countries, barely. That's a minimum that you travel through. Nobody wants to stay there, though. Of course they don't want to stay there, because we're as soft as whatever. Yesterday in the Commons, we knew what was coming. I knew it as I left this studio at 10 o'clock. He's going to say, I will not accept this violence. But would he actually attest to why we have these problems? Richard Tice, this is fantastic. Tice and Starmer going at it yesterday in PMQs. Have a watch.
We all condemn, of course, the appalling violence in Belfast last night after the horrific attack on Monday. But this Prime Minister is in denial of the rising despair across the country over his failure to stop the boats and related criminality, his failure to recognise two-tier policing, his failures over Mandelson, his failures over the scourge of anti-Semitism. He's lost the confidence of the country, his own trade union members and his own very quiet backbenchers, Mr. Speaker. When will he do the right thing, and when will this Prime Minister resign?
Prime Minister. Well, Mr. Speaker, last week we had the terrible case of Henry Novak, which they sought to exploit. Now we have a very difficult situation in Northern Ireland, where families and communities are extremely frightened. What do? They try to whip up fear and division, because that's all they've got.
It's ridiculous. What's whipping up fear and division? It's videos of people getting nearly beheaded in the street.
Yeah, absolutely. This infuriates me probably more than anything. At what point do you say that a politician, what do we say, a politician, if you talk about something, you're inciting violence? You weren't here on Tuesday. I went off on... Honestly, it's been a really angry week. I don't know how Dean's going to have to go to rehab, I should think, this weekend. 6 years ago, George Floyd. Let's just remember one thing, peeps. Career criminal who stuck a 7-inch blade into the stomach, held it against a pregnant woman. I don't like the way he died. I'm absolutely delighted that those coppers in America were brought to justice, but the whole world recoiled in horror. This man was attacked by the police. He was a black man, completely wrong. We took the knee. Actors took the knee. Footballers took the knee. Keir bloody Starmer took the knee with Angela Rayner. Everybody took the knee. There was a minute's silence in the House of Commons and the House of Lords. Nothing like that with Henry Novak. I started that on Tuesday. But at what point? Because I remember, I've got a clip somewhere, Starmer saying, I feel fury. Did that inspire people to go out on the streets? If Nigel Farage or even Dave Polanski or Ed Useless Davey want to stand up and say this is disgusting, the police are not doing their job properly, this is ideology, does that incite violence? Or does that actually say they're trying to talk about what's causing this stuff?
Well, let's remember what Mr. Process, Mr. Follow the Rules, Mr. Don't Whip Up Hatred, Keir Starmer did before the... I've forgotten the name of the copper who ended up killing George Floyd, went to trial, because this was a couple of weeks after George Floyd died. There was no trial yet even put in place. Keir Starmer's talking about his fury. Keir Starmer's taking the knee. Keir Starmer's promising race action plans. And loads of change is going to happen that's just going to end up discriminating against the majority of the country. And yet, when Henry Novak's case has actually gone to trial, has been sentenced, the murderer's gone to jail, the family have also been prosecuted, he says, oh, let's not talk about it.
Completely. It was
It's just
Derek
rubbish.
Michael Chauvin, if you remember.
There we go.
So much response pops yesterday to the show. Keep those voice notes coming in nice and early. 0344 499 1000. Ben, good morning.
Morning, Jeremy. Ben from Birmingham. All these politicians and everyone going mental about the riots, like they've left the people any other choice. I know it's wrong, but people have voted for less immigration and all these other matters consistently for the last 20 years and been ignored and are still being ignored now. And even after all that's going on, are still being gaslit like there's no issue. And then they act surprised when people who have nothing else to lose hit the streets. It's inevitable, and I think it's only going to get worse because they clearly aren't listening.
I agree with Hilary Benn, although he looked shocked when anybody dared to say alien to him. Nothing can justify violence on the streets, but that is not going to solve it by saying you're all wrong. I don't like the thugs. I don't like the people who jump on the back of that. But there were thousands of peaceful protesters the first night in Dublin, in Belfast, that nobody showed because the press don't want that. And while I'm finally on this junket, because I'm glad you're here, because you work for the Daily Telegraph and you're my friend, yesterday morning, from 6 to 6:45, our mainstream media, the BBC, were talking about the World Cup referee who was denied entry and what a terrible man Trump was. What is this? Is this an inability or a refusal to accept what's going on in this country in front of our damn eyes right now?
I would say that a lot of people on the left find this whole story, and in fact every single story that has sparked riots, so uncomfortable that the only responses they have to it is to blame people like Nigel Farage for just talking about the facts of the case. You're not whipping up hatred unless you're whipping up hatred by just reflecting reality. If reality is radicalising people, then you've got a serious problem.
Absolutely.
Or just saying that every single person who has ever raised any concerns about immigration, and God knows by this point we've got a long old list of valid reasons, they're just racist. So what they want to do is say that anyone that cares about this is a racist. Let's just keep on going with what we're doing. We don't want to make any changes to the legal system. We don't care if people like you get killed or raped or assaulted. That is a sacrifice we're willing to make to keep the system as
Somebody rang me yesterday and said, do you remember Epping last year when the local council quite rightly supported the women and the young girls and said we want to stop this Bell Hotel being a migrant hostel? And the local council won. And the government with its Home Secretary, went to court and basically said, we are putting the rights of immigrants ahead of the British voting public. Now, I'll ask you to make your own mind up. Hopefully, Nigel, I spoke to him yesterday. Hopefully, he'll be on the show between now and 10 o'clock this morning. This was him responding to the Belfast riots. I'd love to hear from you as soon as possible this morning. Is he inciting anything by this? This is Nigel yesterday.
And is it any surprise that people in Belfast and elsewhere are scared? None of that justifies what was perpetrated by some bad actors last night. There's no doubt about that. There were some very, very bad actors doing bad things, but the vast majority of those people who were out on the streets in Belfast last night were not far right, were not extremists, just really scared about what's going on in their communities and about the lack of government action. There's none.
Sorry, they'll go, oh, you're just... Completely.
Well, he's just reflecting the views of the majority of the country. One other thing that I think is worth bringing up, because we're talking about the government and what the government's response to this has been, we also have to talk about the last government, the Conservative government, which has been trying to tone police Nigel Farage. There was a news story last night about because the alleged attacker, is of Sudanese descent. He came here as a refugee, had indefinite leave to remain. Who was it that fast-tracked asylum claims for all Sudanese people into the United Kingdom? It was Rishi Sunak.
Who was trying to create, I think, the end to a 92,000 number backlog in the last few months to make himself look good. But let's also do it so we don't get accused of spouting for Nigel the whole time. Suella Braverman was the Home Secretary, Robert Jenrick was the Immigration Minister. They've come under fire.
Every single Tory in that government is...
They did resign, though. That's a perfectly justifiable comment.
They did resign, but I would also say Robert Jenrick, when he was overseeing it, he did help Sudanese people do family reunification. I think actually every single sitting politician, regardless of whether or not they resign, does still have to say this is wrong and explain what they did to change it, because it's had such a damaging effect on the country. Jonathan Hall, the independent terrorism reviewer, had said that it's now a national security concern, that our immigration policy is putting it at risk of terrorism. We have multiple examples of that happening, by the way, people coming on small boats, Iranian operatives coming on small boats, terrorists from all over the Middle East coming on the small boats. We don't know who they are.
I was called.
Of course we don't.
I was called all sorts of things online yesterday, which is like water off a duck's back, because it's exactly the same theory as Starmer. Anybody who has the cojones to stand up and say you are allowing into your country not people seeking refuge, Nuala McAllister, young men who don't bring their wives or their children, who see us as a soft touch, who in no way want to integrate, learn our language, follow our rules, live by our laws. In fact, they're so... I'm sorry, they're so... And no, I don't even know, what's that right word when you're not developed? I don't know what the word is. But basically, as you said it, a beheading's normal.
Yeah.
That is completely alien to where I want to live. Rob, good morning.
Morning, Jez. Rob from Old Beach, again, on my way to work as usual. Just thought I'd like to put my 2 pence worth in about that idiot that was apologising for the terrorist in Belfast. Now, these people, a lot of these people, like him, the places where they come from. Now, they're the sort of people that will think nothing of when their daughter reaches a certain age, to lay her on a rock by a river, get a sharpened piece of stone or a rusty blade and hack her genitals about. So if they'll do that to their own family, what do you think they're prepared to do to yours when they know when they come here, not only will they be forgiven by all the NGOs and the woke politicians, they'll also be defended by taxpayer-funded lawyers, and they won't get kicked out of the country, and they can continue with their cushy little life. I'm sick and fed up with all these people apologising for these horrific monsters that have been set amongst us. We have got no choice in this. We've got no say in this. We just have to shut up and... Oh, mate, I tell you now, these people that have chosen to put all of these wonderful, wonderful diversity is our strength characters in our midst, they're going to reap the whirlwind, mate. What's happening in Belfast is just the beginning. I don't condone all people getting burnt out their houses and cars getting set alight and all that. That's not me. But what I am saying is people have reached that tipping point, mate. And now it's going to get a lot worse, because all you do is double down, tell us we're racist, we're far right, and we're everything under your boot. We're scum. We're second class compared to these people who are committing these atrocities, and if that's your level of thinking, you don't deserve to be anywhere near public office or anything to do with who comes and lives amongst us.
Now, that turned out to be the same Rob yesterday who did that very passionate thing that went viral and ended up with this show being on Fox News. He's dead. How is he wrong in what he says?
He's absolutely... Every single point, he's spot on. He's spot on, because we have reached that tipping point. Because I've reached that tipping point as well. You know, I'm so sick. You see the same thing, not just over years, over decades, where every single time something like this happens, it's a very easily fixable issue. No one likes the asylum system. It does not work properly. OK, people do not want people who they don't know who they are coming into the country, and we can't get rid of them. They're given indefinite leave to remain because we can't deport them back to their countries because people like Lord Hermer say it's against their human rights. Well, what about our rights?
Yes. What about the human rights of that poor man who's lying in hospital having lost an eye, who was slashed and nearly beheaded by an animal who was allowed in by a fast tracking system? Listen, loads of response already. Poppy and I here till 7. 0344 499 1000. Amrit, good morning.
Morning, Jezza. Amrit here. Alarm clock Brit. On my way to work. Woke up at 5:30. I just think it's a shame that nobody's listening to the public. There's so much anger and frustration about all this illegal immigration that comes into this country, and nothing's been done. It's the same as it has been 20 years ago, and we're still suffering now. Until we all stick together as a public, nothing will change.
Nigel Farage, do all diversity training schemes need to be scrapped?
The whole lot. The whole lot. This is where the poison starts. I had a lot of emails from serving and ex-police officers. One guy said, look, there's only one thing I fear as a police officer in terms of losing my job, and that is a member of the public making a complaint that I've acted in a racist way or not acted to intervene in a racist incident. If I miss a murder, if I miss a stabbing, well, that's too bad. But if I miss an accusation of racism, I will be suspended immediately.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 6:25. It is Thursday morning. It is the 10th of June. Well, no, it's the 11th, you see. Somebody's put 10th on my thing. That's not good enough, is it? I'm going to have words. We're live across the UK. We talk, of course, the home of common sense and the place where your views on the day's news are welcome. The palpable anger continues from yesterday. I make no apology. This station's about what you think, alarm clock Brits. And as ever, if you want to be on, 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. Jay, good morning.
Morning, Jezza. Morning, Pops. Fantastic show. Great start. And, yeah, Keir Starmer, Richard Tice yesterday going at it. Do you know what? How can... Listen, I've got no degrees. I've got no university. I've got no political training. I've not been born into it. I'm just an alarm clock Briton. OK, I get up at 5. I do my thing, work hard, provide for my family. Loads of aches and pains from head to toe, and I'm only in my 40s, but I crack on, right? I can see the only person in my mind at the moment who's saying it as it is Nigel Farage. He's the only one. Just come out with the facts, stop hiding things from people, and deal with the problems. You know what the problem is? We all know what the problem is. Control immigration, control it at the borders. Okay, we're fed up with it.
Mark, who works on the show and has done for longer than God started times, just made a really good point. They always talk about the rioters, quite rightly, nobody condones it, but they never talk about the cause, do they? I've got to play this to you, because this caused Poppy and I to almost headbang the wall. Michelle O'Neill, who's the First Minister of Ireland, the Joint First Minister, she represents...
What party?
Sinn Féin.
Oh, right.
Who are they tied to?
Oh, I can't recall now.
That'll be the IRA.
Of course.
Who used to bomb and cause all sorts of problems.
Political violence. Kind of that whole thing, wasn't it?
This is, yeah. This is Michelle O'Neill responding to the Belfast riots as the First Minister.
People were concerned, people were worried for safety, all very understandable emotions. But what we saw spill onto our streets since Monday night has been nothing short of thuggery. What we saw has been nothing short of racism. We saw youths taken to the streets, young men masked, attacking families, burning them out of their homes, attacking public property, attacking businesses. All we've seen is criminality on our streets and a real, I think, a real attempt to underline racism in our society, which I do not believe is widespread.
I'm just going to let Poppy Coburn. How old are you?
26.
I'll actually leave this to you, because otherwise I'll be taken off air.
I mean, well, now I'm going to get in trouble, but...
No, you're not.
The very basic point is, if you're a party that had links to the IRA, which bombed innocent people...
Yeah, criminality on the streets.
Aside from property damage, that literally blew up innocent people.
Blew people.
Shot people, innocent people, for years, over decades. And you're now standing up and saying, it's a little appalling that people are burning out cars. How could there be all this unrest on the streets? How appalling, we condemn that.
No cause, everybody's a racist.
No cause, everyone's a racist.
Yeah.
How dare you? Seriously, do you think people were born yesterday? It's like having Jerry Adams come on television and call for peace and calm and kumbaya.
Have we got the tweet from Jerry Adams? It's on its way. He said everybody's a racist and this must stop. I just want to make the point, because there will be... I was going to take aim at a fellow broadcaster there who went for me yesterday. I did better than that. There will be people who will say, I am not encouraging it. I am not inciting it. I don't agree with it. Innocent people were hurt. Their homes were thingy. What I'm trying to get our politicians to understand is if you do not get to the root cause, if you do not acknowledge that this country is at a turning point, a seminal moment where I've said this since I started the show, Pops, that the silent majority who had switched off from politics after the expenses scandal, the COVID thing, all the problems, suddenly have woken up, and they've woken up because there's a cost of living crisis and everything costs more money. There's no police, there's lawlessness, there's knife crime, the borders are overrun, and suddenly people who live their lives correctly, and I apologise to you all out there, I say it every day, who just follow the law and pay their taxes and look after their kids are thinking, hold on a minute. Not only do people come into this country and get treated better than we do, and we're living by the rules and earning the money and paying tax, not only that, but they can commit heinous crimes that don't have any place in our society, and they'll still find a human rights lawyer. Yeah. They'll still find somebody to say, oh, the people who dare to stand up to this are racist. I am still waiting. I'm surprised it's taken 24 hours. What was the name of that bloke that did that heinous crime? What was his name again?
Derek Chauvin?
No, this one, the beheading man. What was his name?
Oh, God, I can't remember his name.
How long until somebody says he's mentally ill and I have to be kept
Halu did.
He'll be... Callacane, I had Barnaby Webber's mother on the other day, right? Even I didn't know this, right? That sounds awful. Callacane is in a maximum security unit, right? He murdered 3 people. He was allowed out because a nurse thought keeping a man of colour in a mental institution was racist. And here's the best bit, everybody. Alarm clock Brits. He's being paid over £1,000 a month in benefits. Now, can somebody...
Come on.
Mate,
you must be joking.
Am I joking, Dean? That is what Emma Webber and he is getting benefits, Callacane, whilst he's in a secure hospital, not as a murderer, but somebody whose mental state meant that he knifed 3 people to death. I would respectfully suggest that this piece of... I have to be careful because legally I'm going... He's going to stay in this country, is he? I'm going to pay my taxes to have him locked up.
No one gets deported back to Sudan. No one gets deported back to Sudan. Seriously, there have been multiple cases, including the murderer of Rhiannon Sky White, who was the hotel worker, who was working at a hotel...
23 times that poor girl was stabbed.
With a screwdriver.
Her mother was on with Julia yesterday.
Yeah, just disgusting. He was from Sudan, the man who murdered her. He will never, under the current government, be deported back to his home country.
Just to throw this into the mix at 6:32 for anybody, if you are driving or if you are in a moment where you might lose your head, just I'm going to just serve this as a warning, because on the back of a poll suggesting that 1 in Brits believe the police treat ethnic minorities more favourably than white people, and that's a fact, that's been given to us today, on the back of Novak, on the back of what you are witnessing in Ireland, having seen that attempted beheading by a Sudanese illegal migrant, today the government have warned immigration officers... I can't do this. I can't. Ready for this? That wearing England badges could be seen as intimidating to detainees. Honestly, I don't know what to say anymore. I genuinely, Pops, you have to help me out. I'm done.
So I read this story.
Yeah.
And I immediately looked up the body that is overseeing the prisons unit.
Yeah.
And as is never a surprise to me, it was obviously strengthened its powers under the Conservative government. It's an arm's-length body that doesn't have any direct political oversight. So you've basically got a load of political activists in here who we can't get rid of. We can't get rid of. The government can get rid of them, but we can't get rid of them. There's nothing we can do to get any of these people sacked.
No.
What are their concerns? Well, their concerns are meeting their race equity plans. Their concerns are making sure that diversity and inclusion is always being put at the forefront. Their concerns are not the fact that these people are illegal detainees who have entered the country unlawfully.
You know this wearing an England badge could be seen as intimidating. I'm really so Dean.
Do they know what country they're in?
You nearly said what I want to say. Hover your fingers. Just something about it. You know you all want to come here because we're so soft and we wipe your backside. If you don't like my badge, sod off somewhere else then. What is wrong with people?
I mean, it is just as... Also, do we not kind of want people to be intimidated if they're being detained? They have entered the country illegally. Are we really supposed to make everything nice and happy for them? We're supposed to put nice pictures of flowers up on the wall and say welcome. The whole point is that they've been detained. They shouldn't be here. It's immigration detention. Look at what they do in America. It's all bare walls. There's kind of cells.
You've arrived illegally and an immigration officer's not allowed to wear an England badge because it could intimidate you.
It's just insane.
That is literally where we're at. Good morning, Jez. Good morning, Pops. The mass invasion of our country by illegal immigrants is obviously planned. I think we are paying reparations by stealth. We are an island. We could stop the boats tomorrow if the will was there. Great show. Lee in Margate Harbour. Morning, Jez. Morning, Pops. The British majority realise that we don't live in a democracy. We've been voting to stop illegal immigration and voting to make illegal immigration selective for 30 years. The British majority have been ignored. Decline and degradation. Dan in Epsom, thank you very much indeed. Jez, don't forget an illegal immigrant who had been in this country for 7 years tried to blow up Liverpool Women's Hospital. That's absolutely true. Joanna from Salisbury. Morning, gang. Hi, Jez. And Sunny Poppy. Don't know what that means. Poor Poppy, it seems, might be paying more towards these migrants soon. Interest on student loans are in Rachel Reeves' sights again.
Oh, don't talk to me about student
They
loans,
are looking
guys.
at hiking up more taxes again. This story, have you heard this morning? Sorry, I'm not getting away from my story, but this is true. Sir Keir Starmer yesterday. I agree we need to increase defence spending and defend our nation. I think I might raise taxes again.
Oh,
why don't you stop spending billions on welfare for the feckless and stop allowing people into this country to get benefits, or stop giving Valdo Callacane £1,000 a month to languish in a security hospital having killed 3 people? Honestly, it's going to be a blood pressure situation soon. Bill's in Romsey. If you watch and listen to Starmer, I think he's thinking that why this rioting is going on. He won't get a question on Mandelson, defence, tax, grooming gangs. Couldn't agree more. Phil's in Lancashire. Can Poppy say good morning to me?
Good morning.
Oh. Good morning, Jez. Great show. My opinion, we have an anti-British government and we have these illegal immigrants, am I allowed to say that come to this country, hate this country, but are happy to accept benefits and they'll end up voting Labour. Morning, Jez. Everything Nigel said in my mind was spot on, Susie. Margaret in Birmingham. Don't know why I do that. Jez and Pops. Tice was brilliant. Starmer is not only in denial but blinkered and couldn't give a toss about the people of this country. Yeah. Sharon Miller from Staffordshire. I can't wait to see Nigel on Talk this morning. We're sorting it. Morning, Pops and the old timer. Nice. The Foreign Office... This is good. The Foreign Office advised against all travel to Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, Southern Sudan, Syria and Yemen, amongst others. So if it's so bloody dangerous for Brits to travel there, why are we allowing them into this country, putting them in hotels and giving them leave to remain? I'm no Albert Einstein, but the maths ain't working out, is it, in this?
Yeah, it's so dangerous to travel to Sudan, but don't worry, we're going to bring Sudan to you in the comfort of your own home.
Barry says, I don't condone it, but I understand it. He says, politicians ignore peaceful protests. What are people supposed to think? I mean, that's the truth, isn't it, Phil? I will fly my bloody flag from my car, and if the police want to stop me, they can do one as well. Mark's in Croydon. Morning, Beth. I did wonder with the World Cup upon us when the first story would appear about how this country's flag is racist. Should have guessed immigration. Wonder if the Mexicans will have the same issue tonight. They'll just wave, won't they? Oh, that was... that was so poor.
That is appalling.
It was appalling. No voice note, Marky. 0344 499 1000. What? Lee. It was not written down. How would I know? Where does it say Lee? It's got voice... Hold on a minute. Where does it say Lee? I've got voice note, clips ready. So, honestly, standards are dropping now. The team have been brilliant. Lee, good morning.
Morning, Jez and Poppy. Lee from Scarborough, in his van, veteran. Well, Jezza, what can I say? Yeah, let's condemn everybody else. Let's not get to the point of it all. All these bloody politicians, honestly. Why are these riots happening? Why? And to be honest with you, Jezza, good on the Northern Irish. Let's give it to them. I'm telling you, I don't agree with it, but I'm telling you, this is the start of it. I'm absolutely seething. But they've got their heads stuck in the sand, this lot. Not one. Nigel, Richard Tice yesterday, fantastic. Get in there. Somebody, these people stick up for us. Starmer, Badenoch, the rest of them, they're a joke. A bloody joke, Jeremy. I'm telling you, I'm absolutely seething this morning. And they condemn everybody else. They condemn everybody. They just don't realise what they are starting. And this is the start of it, Jeremy. I'm a veteran. And I'll tell you what, I'll march on the streets. I'll stick up for this country. We need to get this migrant crisis under control. Because this lot can't do it. Nigel, hurry up and get in power. Richard Tice, what a fella. Great show, Jeremy. Anyway, I'll calm down sooner or later. Cheers, fella. Bye.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. It doesn't go away. 20 to 7. We're live across the UK. This is Talk Breakfast. JK here with the indomitably brilliant Poppy. In fact, Bruce says, with all that's going on in this land, I've only got one thing to say. Good morning, lovely Poppy.
Thank you very much.
Obviously, Bruce needs therapy as well. 0344 411 Liam, good morning.
Morning, Jazz. Liam in Yorkshire. The problem is, especially when you're editing PMQs and there's only real reform that attack that line, is nobody's willing to ask the question, why are people reacting like this? Yeah, that horrific act, what happened the other night, but the reason why they're doing this and the social fabric and cohesion of these local areas, a lot like my area and I'm working class towns, how would I feel if a load of illegal immigrants got dumped in our area and started causing trouble and havoc? It's not going to go down well. They don't want to address the main reason, which is why they've been put there in the first place, because they don't have an answer to it. So when things like this happen, it's easier just to tar people, well, annoyed locals, should we say, with the same brush. And it's just going to carry on happening and probably get worse before it gets better. Anyway, have a good show, Jazz.
You know, Pops, we live in a country where you can't seemingly say anything for fear of offending people, as we've become this sort of box-ticking DEI madhouse. I'm offended that I get called a racist or far right for pointing out that a Sudanese man came here illegally and thinks in his culture and his mind it's okay to behead an Englishman with a knife in broad daylight. But you get labelled if you have that view. You listen to, I'm not even going to name him, there's a radio station, there's this bloke on in the morning at 10 o'clock. I had to listen for 10 minutes yesterday. James O'Brien. And I don't know whether he does it as a wind-up. I don't know whether he, again, is an example of somebody who's anti-British, as many other broadcasters seem to be. I don't think it's wrong to call this behaviour out. I genuinely don't think it's wrong to call it out. And even if I sat here and tried to think, what is the answer? What is the answer? You heard that last voice note, Liam saying, they don't have an answer. I don't buy that. I think there's a very simple solution to the immigration problem, and if the people elected can't get their heads together and work it out, it tells me there's no will to do it. They don't want to solve the problems of this country, because then somebody once said to me cynically that you come into government and you have a view and then you realise you can't change it. You just spend the entire time shouting at the rain and then saying it's not my fault, I can't do anything about it. Well, I'd rather have a go and fall on my sword and at least know that I'd tried.
Oh, I completely agree. This government had decided from the moment they got into power that it was not going to do anything on immigration and asylum. Everything they've done since has been a sideshow. Do you remember the one in, one out scheme that turned out to be 30 people in?
Hold on, front page of the Times. Single migrant, only one sent back after crossing the Irish border. So that's 1 out and 5 million in. Keir, what a load of old...
Well, no, but there you go. But Keir Starmer, in a former life, was a human rights lawyer.
Yep.
He will never, ever change the system as it currently stands. He doesn't care how many people get killed. He doesn't care how many terror attacks are linked to asylum seekers. He doesn't care if young women can't walk the streets at night. He does not care.
But how do you stand
he will
up?
Not touch it.
How do you stand up and portray that image to your people? You don't care. You don't care.
He can't. What he can do is try and dehumanise us.
Right.
The only way he can get away with it is by saying, these people who are standing up and saying this is wrong, I can't stand this anymore, they're actually not like you and I. They're horrible, evil, far-right racists. That's why they say it. It's very calculated. It's a way to discredit you so they can turn around and go, we're the decent people. We're the decent people who don't want to do anything about this crisis. We're just going to, chuck a couple policies at it and walk away.
Like me, and you work for the Telegraph, nobody in this building, and I'm sure people will jump on this, nobody, in my mind, can quite in any way justify the horror that was seen the last 2 nights in Belfast. I don't condone it, I don't agree with it, and what happens is, in many instances, of course, it's hijacked by the thugs. Fine. But if you do not acknowledge that there were thousands who took to the streets who didn't involve themselves in that, who have genuine concerns, you are absolutely able to be accused that you will not deal with the cause because you're either too thick or it doesn't suit your political needs. We played a message, a video clip earlier of Michelle O'Neill, the First Minister of Ireland. She used to be part of Sinn Féin. which was affiliated to the IRA, who used to blow people up. Action on the street. Jerry Adams, famously, he's tweeted. I haven't even seen this. Jerry Adams. What does his tweet say? Let's have a look at this. He's going to make. But can you put it up on the screen, please? Because nobody's passed it to me, so I'm absolutely no idea what's going on here. 0344 499 1000. Last night's incident in Belfast, writes Jerry Adams, is no excuse for tonight's racist attacks. Racists are exploiting mostly young people who thought without thought for the consequences. People deserve better. Say no to racism. That's Jerry Adams.
Exploiting mostly young people with no thought for the consequences by Jerry Adams. I think it kind of speaks for itself, doesn't it?
It's extraordinary, mate, isn't it? It's extraordinary.
But this is the kind of cognitive dissonance. It's people have gone crazy about this.
Yeah.
They are so in their heads about this issue, they cannot even give you the credit of saying there are some valid reasons why people are very, very, very upset about this.
Yeah.
Again, it's not to condone, like, burning people down out of their
Not
homes.
at all. Going to keep saying it all day.
But I'm sorry, tens of thousands of people have been to protests across
Yeah.
the country. Hundreds of thousands of people, actually, over the years have gone to peaceful protests about immigration-related issues. Millions of people come out to vote every time it's election time to vote on the basis of immigration. And they have been ignored for as long as I've been alive.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Jess, you're talking about taking down English flags. I have ENG as part of my registration plate for my truck. I'm proud to be English, as Ricky in Manchester. You'll probably be stopped by the police in a minute, mate. Well done. Jerry in Bromley, good morning. Starmer is using exactly the same tactic after the Belfast attempted beheading as he did after the Southport murders. Blame the complainers, but not address the core issues, which are Islamism, I can never say that, Islamism, and this person says illegal immigration. That was Jerry in Bromley. Good morning. Liam from Accrington. Morning, Jez. Morning, Poppy. Great show. Why does Starmer hate us British people so much? It's so unfair that we can't say that we do not like what's happening in our country. Well, we can say it's not fair. We absolutely can. And it's not just talk. There are other outlets that do that, and I give them credit for that. But the truth of the matter is, you have to have broad shoulders.
Yeah.
If you dare. I mean, I'm old enough to remember that if you talked about immigration 10 years ago, you were called a racist.
Yeah.
Now people are talking about it because it's on everybody's lips. What we saw in Belfast, you notice the government and you notice the rhetoric this morning is all about, it's right to condone, couldn't agree more, those acts that those thugs took part in. We're not going to lose sight of the fact, though, Starmer, in doing that, that there's a root cause for this taking place, which is the out-of-control illegal immigration. And people will look at me and they'll go, no, we don't take many. And these people are escaping war-torn countries, and you're a right-wing fascist, and that's fundamentally unfair and humanly wrong.
Well, we don't take many, but it's clearly taking enough people to cause crimes like this happening literally every couple of weeks. I mean, on the day that the story of this man nearly being beheaded broke, there was another story in the news that got almost completely buried, just because obviously this is such a massive story, where a schoolgirl was gang raped by 4 Afghan asylum seekers.
They paid for a taxi from Somerset to Bristol, plied her with vodka, did it yesterday, and drugs, and raped her, including one of the rapists was a 16-year-old boy.
Yeah, when we talk about grooming gangs, by the way, we're not talking about historical grooming gangs.
Yeah.
This is still happening everywhere, up and down the country. Stories like this happen every single day.
Couldn't agree
That is the
more.
environment that the government thinks that you just have to put up and live with.
George in Leicester, I kid you not, a few weeks ago I picked up a young couple and got talking about the illegal immigrants coming to the UK, and the young girl said, "You're listening to utter nonsense. This is fabricated by the media." As customers, I couldn't say what I wanted to, but if these younger people think everything's happening isn't real, I honestly am very happy to be getting older by the day. Jez, James from Exeter, I'm very angry this morning. Jerry Adams can go and do one. I think he should go and take a bloody long, hard look in the mirror. Charles from Thailand. Notice Jerry Adams can't even spell racist correctly. I didn't, but that's fantastic. We've got to look at that. Has he done it wrong? Morning, Pops and Jez. Oh, round that way. As a secondary school teacher, I do a range of safeguarding, and here are some of the units we have to do which have had far more emphasis in recent years. Secondary school teacher. Equality, diversity and inclusion, female genital mutilation, forced marriage, honour-based abuse, knife crime and serious violence prevent. Wonder what may have been the driving force behind this. Great show and keep out speaking the truth. Thank you, my friend. It's true, isn't it?
Yeah.
Honestly. Sean, good morning.
Morning, Jeremy. Sean from Grimsby. I listened to PMQs when I was driving my lorry home yesterday, and the very first question they asked, it wasn't about the attempted beheading of this poor fellow in Belfast, or the riots, or the rape of the young girl by the Afghans the other day, or Rihanna White, or any other horrendous things what's happened in our country. It was about some settlements on the West Bank by the Israelis. This tells you everything you need to know about the politics and the politicians in our country. They're not focused on what's going on here. They care more about what's going on in some Middle Eastern country or Ukraine, thousands and thousands of miles away, whilst our country burns. Absolutely stupid, this lot, mate. We need to get this lot out. Great show, mate.
And that's what I hear every single day.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is we are under a Labour government. They have 3 more years, and as it stands, it's really interesting for me. I always ask you your age because it amazes me that you are as young as you are and as switched on. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. I think you're fantastic and love having you on the show. But, you know, when the last election was on, I remember thinking, I'm not allowed to say it, I remember the last government in the late 70s, the last Labour government, and I've talked about the rubbish on the streets and the green goddesses as ambulances. And I remember distinctly being told by the old man and watching inflation go from like 5% to 30 because they gave pay rises to anybody and everybody and printed money just to, and then suddenly we're screwed. There are rumours that Rachel Thieves will have to go to the IMF in weeks. We have no money. Even as you pointed out earlier, Starmer's not ruling out further tax rises to defend this nation. If we do not, along with the argument of illegal immigration, work out that too many people are on benefits, too many people are coming into this country, and too many people are having their backsides wiped, we'll be wiped out financially and morally. I don't know where we are done, I think.
It's beginning to look like we're a failed state. I mean, look...
how does that sound, though?
But seriously,
Yeah.
I mean, look at the problems the country faced in the 1970s. I'm not going to pretend that the 1970s were a nice time to live through. I mean, I wasn't there.
You were.
The
You're
genes
lying.
alone...
She's really 86.
The genes alone look bloody awful. But, you know, some of the stuff that we're talking about, well, like my mum used to talk about, oh, well, life was like in the 1970s, like rubbish not being removed from the streets. Well, has anyone been to Birmingham recently?
Yeah,
They've
true.
still got their rubbish on the streets
Yeah,
that's
that's
been
true.
picked up.
Yeah.
Oh, disorder in the streets. Well, what was happening last night in Belfast? All of the stuff that happened in the 1970s is happening again now, but I think it's worse because we've got more debt, more disorder, more dysfunctional government systems. I don't even know if we're going to be able to fix it in one term of government. That's how deep the rot has got
Yeah,
into this country.
I don't think that. No, I think you're right, and the rot has definitely set in. I don't think it can happen in the short space of one government. And of course, you know, I used this analogy the other day about Trump. Right? There's much about Trump I don't like, but he has got immigration down, and he does say it how it is. Right? I think that. I mean, I asked Nigel this last week on the show. If you detain and deport, I'm not saying it'll be ice-like with weapons, but you're going to have to go and get these people and bang them up and then send them home. Can you imagine the lovies? Can you imagine the response? But that's where you need a convicted leader who says, listen, I've got a majority, you could do one. That's what's happening. That's what I got elected on, and I will take whatever is thrown at me. It reminds me a bit of Thatcher and the closed shop. For people who... Alarm clock Brits will know this, you will because of your job, others won't. But, you know, unions were on strike the whole time when Thatcher came to power. And she said you have absolutely every right to vote, to strike. But what I want you to do is have a private vote, go into a booth, and if you as a union get over 50%, you can absolutely strike. Because in those days, if you didn't strike, you were intimidated, or your wife was abused at the school gate, or you had a brick through your window. And guess what? Private votes, strikes went down by 95%.
There you go.
And I just think, I honestly think we are where we've never been before. And you know, you come in here, I come in here, and somebody said earlier, wouldn't it be nice to wake up and have some good news? But we're in trouble. Wayne, good morning.
Morning, Jezza. Morning, Poppy. It's Wayne from Erdington in Birmingham. If we'd have known it was that easy to keep those illegal migrants at bay, we'd have all dressed in full England kits, England bucket hats, England flags, and we'd have paraded round in them for the last 30 years if it would have stopped people coming. Keep up the good work, guys. This government are a bunch of clowns.
People have been peacefully protesting for years, says Nicky, and the government continue to ignore. They only start listening when people start rioting, otherwise they ignore. The government causes the riots, not Farage, not Lowe. Starmer and the left-wing apologists are responsible for this. Where in your mind, Pops, does it end?
I mean, that's a frightening question, because as you said before, we've got 3 years before we get a new government. The last 2 years, we've seen riots every summer because of these atrocities that keep happening. What's going to happen next year? Who's going to be next? Who's going to be the next victim?
Did you think it would be this bad under this government? Seriously, initially?
No, honestly.
I didn't.
I thought it'd be bad, but I think everyone has been shocked by just how appallingly Keir Starmer has been as a leader and how the Labour Party have behaved.
Do you think he knows how bad he's been? Do you think he knows how much he's loathed?
He must. I think he must know, but there's something strange about him. This will to keep fighting, but for what? Why does he want to stay in power? Because can you tell me what Keir Starmer believes in? I can't tell you what Keir Starmer believes in.
Arsenal.
I mean, is that it? Really?
Probably. I don't know. The man, you know, we got criticised. Oh, you keep calling him a flip-flop. That's because he didn't believe we'll stick to anything. Right. There was no plan. But that is also... Sorry, you're not going to like this, some of you. That's on the electorate, that is.
Yeah.
So bad with the... It's also on the Tories, who was so bad that the British public stopped listening. But the electorate, I suspect, believed that this was a better shot. I've no idea. Tony, good morning.
Morning, Jeremy and Poppy. Tony, Hampshire. Rachel Reeves is more destructive than 1,000 riots. If you took the worst riot and it cost £24 million worth of damage and harm, Rachel Reeves is borrowing £24 billion this month. £24 billion. Where there will be no money in the future, there won't be basic operations because we haven't got the equipment, because Rachel blew £24 billion back in June 2026.
Couldn't agree more.
Oh, yeah. I mean, what money's going to be left for my generation? I don't think that. Am I going to have a state pension waiting for me, the way the government's spending money?
Well, I'm 61, and I got my first letter the other day saying your pension will be coming to you in 6 years.
Ooh.
My father-in-law, who turned 80, got a 25p a week increase. And he's worked all his life. You should hear him talk about this. Mate, so good to have you in here. Just a 30-second preview, a review of it all, just from you. What do you make of it all?
You know, I just want to put my head in my hands, because it's the powerlessness that you feel, where you just know that things are not going to get better. Unfortunately, in the next couple of years, they're going to get worse. But we have to believe if we keep on fighting, you know, keep on protesting, get your voice heard peacefully, then something's going to change. And make sure when the general election comes along, get this government out.
Poppy Coburn, assistant content editor, comment editor at The Telegraph. We love her. Thank you so much indeed. Have a great weekend. See you next week. It's almost 7 o'clock. This is Talk Breakfast.
I'm angry, Julia. The family are angry. Everybody who has seen that video or even heard the story understandably will be angry. But the job of politicians is not to tell people, go out and be angry. People have a right to protest. I think that actually people coming out and showing solidarity with the family, showing they're upset about it, sends a signal to political leaders. What it shouldn't be is us whipping up people's rage.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
some breaking news here. The Crowborough Army Training Camp could hold male asylum seekers all the way until 2030. Good. After the Home Office claimed it would only be for 12 months. Not much ambition involved in that, is there, in terms of solving the migrant crisis?
Absolutely, and the way that the Labour government gaslit the public when the migrants were first moved in there, saying, you know, you guys are absolutely being mad. Crowborough is a quiet, leafy town in East Sussex. These people, you can see, have been pushed to their absolute limit. They're not the types that you usually see protesting about this sort of thing. But that town has been absolutely desecrated.
You're ruining the country. Get Keir Starmer out. Look, England flag. You're useless. Labour Party's useless.
I love our country. And one of the things about our country is good manners. Not very British.
What Labour advisor thought she wasn't going to be heckled at a petrol station in Leeds? Do these politicians actually ever get out and understand what it's like for real working-class people? I thought it was British to exercise a right to free speech. That's what Keith Stalin told Trump. That's what White Van Man was exercising yesterday to Richard III. Oh, yes, I remember. We're not really allowed our right to free speech in case we criticise the government.
You can't blame people so many decades away from you for the chaos that has been caused by Labour.
This is cheap politics, isn't it, Syrian?
Well, it's stupid politics. I mean, who raised national insurance on part-time workers? Labour. Who's been the stupid people that have wandered down the road and increased taxes on businesses and on individuals? Labour.
A lot of people get very frustrated, especially when the government says, oh, free school meals, you know, for every kid, not just the kids who really need them, free bus passes, free this, free that. None of it's free. It's subsidised and paid for by the taxpayer. And we're in this constant situation where the government's answer to everything is tax us a bit more, take more of our money, and then give some more of it away generously. It's our sodding money they're giving away.
Yeah, exactly. And it's either someone else's money today, another taxpayer, or even worse, it's the money from our future selves. And we keep making this mistake in Britain.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, or welcome along, my friends. Just gone 7 o'clock. It's Thursday, the 11th of June, and we're live across the UK with Talk. It is, of course, the home of common sense. It's a place where your views on the day's news are welcome and heard and reported and played and whatever. You can leave us a voice note, 0344 499 1000. You can send, you can make a call on that number as well, 0344 499 1000. You can send us a text, 87222. Start your message with the word Talk. Yesterday, there was palpable horror, anger, revulsion, disappointment, unfairness, everything you could imagine about what happened in Belfast. The 30-year-old Sudanese illegal immigrant who'd come through the CTA scheme, backdoor for illegal immigration, trying to behead an Irish man, Stephen Ogilvie, in broad daylight. Revulsion. And let me start by saying, after a second night of unrest in Belfast, where, as we know, rioters, hooded in many instances, clashed with police near a hotel housing migrants, water cannons, bricks, bottles. I don't condone any of it. In fact, those mindless few, I think, degrade the message that needs getting through. Because what needs to be dealt with is how the government of this country, successive governments, I have to say, have ignored a massive issue. Migration, illegal migration, is happening in droves, and the people who are coming to this country, and I got slaughtered yesterday for saying this by some people, couldn't care. If you allow unvetted men into your country under the premise of, oh, he's escaping from Sudan, war-torn country. We have to come through 7 countries that aren't war-torn, hasn't brought his wife and kids, and is medieval in his approach to life, and he thinks it's acceptable to try and hack somebody's head off in broad daylight, then I think you are putting your people at risk. And I don't condone the violence or anything to do with it. But the question for you, Starmer, and other politicians is, if you don't deal with the root cause and you merely stand up and say, I don't condone the violence, it's awful. Yes, we all do, mate. But you have to look at why it's happening, because the British people need to be heard. We're delighted to say good morning to the Deputy Speaker of the Northern Ireland Assembly, former leader of the Ulster Unionist Party as well, Steve Aitken. Steve, a very good morning to you.
Well, I wouldn't use the good bit. I would just say morning, Germany. It hasn't been a great night at all. And
No.
you've just seen some of the clips there of the sort of violence. That's an area I grew up in Glengormley, and it's a terrible thing to say. But what you're saying about migration, what we're hearing time and time again, and I was out in the streets yesterday talking to our people, is the real anger that there is there about how did somebody who, first of all, arrived in France, didn't claim asylum there. Somebody who then arrived in Dublin, didn't claim asylum there. And suddenly miraculously ended up in Belfast and claimed asylum here. And look, many of us travel back and forth across the Irish border and go back, of course, across the Irish Sea on a fairly regular basis. I've been on a bus going down to Dublin Airport that's been stopped by Garda Síochána, and basically they've racially profiled everybody on the bus, and everybody they don't think that is, let's say, from the island of Ireland are either taken off the bus and checked. There are border checks. They're just not on the Northern Ireland side. But there are when you get off the ferry, because I've also been on the ferry going across from Larne to Cairnryan, and in Cairnryan, border agency were doing exactly the same thing. So people have real concerns about what's being done and why, what is going on, and who's responsible for it. Look, we have an example. I'm the Speaker. We're looking at the Justice Bill in the Northern Ireland Assembly. And lots of questions have been asked about who's actually responsible. And what is happening is some of the local politicians here are doing a lot of slope shoulders. And they're saying, look, it's nothing to do with us. This is a Home Office issue. This is this issue or WhatsApp issue. People on the streets and people in communities, they're very angry at the rioters. They think somehow they're some kind of glorified cozy bear, whatever it happens to be. They're being whipped up by social media. They are not liked. There is no support for these people who are doing this in the street whatsoever.
But it is fair to say as well...
Jeremy, they're saying this is actually disguising what's been going on, and when are we going to get some answers? I'm seeing the Secretary of State this afternoon, along with my party leader. We're going to be in there and saying, like, what is going on here? How is this allowed to happen? How can there be a situation where the Irish Republic can stop people coming from Northern Ireland going south? And how can it be in a situation that the Home Office think they're more than happy to do it in Scotland, coming from Northern Ireland? Why is all this touchy-feely, we're not going to deal with this issue situation out there?
Well, I think that, and I completely agree with you, and I like the point you made, because I would add a caveat that there were lots and lots of people who took to the streets who were not violent. There's always the mindless thugs, and they get, of course, the oxygen, they get the social media clips. There is deep, deep, deep frustration with the government that seemingly will not get to the root cause or even acknowledge, Steve, that there is an immigration issue. And I want to bring up with you something that I've said for 2 days. And, you know, some people didn't like this yesterday. I'm not in the business of doing anything other than speaking it as I see it. And that will be right in some instances and wrong in others. If you allow unvetted men into a country who have not your values, your morality, your legality, your language, who, let's be perfectly honest, look at the grooming gang scandal, do not treat women and children in the way that we believe they should correctly be treated, who hold weapons. I've done this for a long time. When I saw that picture, I was sick to my stomach, and for the first time in my life, I said this yesterday, I was worried about my children, I was worried about my grandchildren. I was in the street yesterday morning and I was looking over my shoulder. That's ridiculous, right? But that is the reality, and it does not serve anybody for a variety of politicians, and I get the we don't condone it because I don't, standing up and saying, you're all far right, you're all racist, you're all a disgrace. I mean, that bloody... Do you know who Nuala McAllister is?
Oh, I know. Yes, I know who Nuala McAllister is. And as the Deputy Speaker, she's one of the members of the Legislative Assembly who'll be there. Look, Jeremy... I mean, she said on the show yesterday, this is nothing to do with migrants. Michelle O'Neill, and tell me I'm out of order here, I know you will do, Steve, right? Is a member of Sinn... when you mentioned the word Michelle O'Neill, who's the so-called First Minister for all, and bearing in mind cannot apologise for the violence that the Provisional IRA did. She said there was no alternative. You can spread your arms out, Jeremy. I can't. I'm a bit compressed in this space I am at the moment, but you're spot on there. But there's a point here that I think you haven't picked up on, and be worth saying if you can get some answers out of the government, because we can't. Because not only do we have the problems of migrants, we don't have any, or illegal migrants, we don't have any control of being checked on and the rest of it. Has anybody asked the question about all the Russians who get visas to go into the Irish Republic and then disappear because there's no checks across them coming across the common travel area as well? You know, we're moving now to the, we're looking what's going across the whole of Europe. We're looking at the fact that the Republic of Ireland is seen as it doesn't spend any money in defence. Like, literally, it's like 0.002%.
Don't worry, Keir Starmer overnight says he's going to increase defence by increasing taxes again. No,
don't go there. Don't go there, Jeremy. I'm a veteran of the Royal Navy for 32 years. That is just complete. Allow me to say this another way. That is complete and utter waffle. And,
listen,
I've been a submarine captain.
I could go on forever. We've got a government who... I was sat here 4 weeks ago, Steve, when it dropped that. For the first time in our history, our benefits bill, right, is greater than the money in which the Exchequer gets from people in tax who work. This government will not deal with the root cause of immigration, probably because they're worried about a certain demographic or ethnic group voting for them, and there's factual evidence to prove. In the last election, they lost 5 seats to Muslims candidates standing only on a Gaza ticket, right? What infuriates me is it is patently obvious that this country is on a precipice, and all I get, not from you guys, the politicians I've had from Ireland have been amazing. All I get from politicians on this side of the thing, on the left, is you don't understand how difficult these people's lives are. You don't understand how awful it is. You don't this, you don't. And I want to scream in their faces and go, why don't you ask working class, hard-working, alarm clock Brits how bloody hacked off they are, that they do everything correct and they're being left like dogs with nothing. That's what I want to say every day.
Well, but here's the thought. It's as if the people think that sort of politicians live in a bubble. I tell you what, I don't have to go and ask my constituents what they think, because they tell me every day, because we're out there talking to people doing that. I know what they think. I also, because I've got lots of friends in politics across the whole of the United Kingdom, I'm a proud unionist, but I know people in Scotland, England, Wales, and I know exactly what they're being told as well. So what's the disconnect between what's happening to the people that they're telling their politicians and why the government aren't doing anything about it? That's the question, and that's what's undermining what people think.
And there, of course, therein lies something, because I then have people in their thousands messaging me and calling saying, he appears to hate Britain. He and Herma will do anything to protect the Attorney General. Perpetrators of crime, people who seemingly are anti-Great Britain. And that creates, it doesn't justify, Steve, in any way, but that creates the deep-seated anger that we've seen on the streets of Belfast for 2 nights. That has to be said.
Look, let's talk about the whole Harbour situation, and I can give you an entire programme about the legacy process and how our armed forces have been thrown to the wolves, and how the legacy of the lawfare people, between throwing away sort of islands we already own in the Indian Ocean, taking sort of our members of our armed forces who put people on their lives on their land every single day, are now being prosecuted and trying to be taken into court. That is no way true. You wonder why our armed forces are demoralised? Just look at what the government's been doing. There is absolutely no...
Is this the same government and Herma that wants to give immunity to the IRA while saying to people who donned the uniforms 30 years ago and maybe are in a care home, there'll be a knock on the door soon and we're going to prosecute you because you're an evil person? It doesn't stack up for me as... And maybe I sound old-fashioned, right, Steve? That's not what Great Britain was. I genuinely am beginning to not recognise my country, and I'm beginning to, almost in disbelief, to think that we have a government for another 3 years that is seemingly so at odds with millions of people in this country are on the edge about this. They are.
Yeah, and we're made... and, people would say to me, oh, you're coming out with these views, you're some kind of right-wing extremist or something. I'm not. I'm as a centrist as anybody. People, in Northern Ireland politics, I would be said to be as left as centre. But to tell you what I do want to make sure, I want to make sure our people are well looked after and feel safe. And right now, they don't.
I couldn't agree more. Where does it end? I'm just going to give you this, by the way. Before you go, you'll love this. It's going to get you through the day. There's a story out this morning that immigration officials on the shores of England have been warned by their bosses that if they wear England badges or anything to do with England, it could be intimidating to people who have arrived illegally that they're detaining. That, my friend, sums up where we're at.
Well, I could say I have seen examples of people who have, you know, people like us in the armed forces would always have those low-vis Union Jack things that we put on our uniforms when we're going places. I know people from the UK Border Force have been told to take those off. And, you know, if you can't even be seen to be representing your country, what is going on?
You know what I'm going to say, don't you? You know the people that are being detained. Why are you coming if you hate my country so much? Then go somewhere else. Listen, Steve, I know you got to be away. Really appreciate your time. Please come on again soon. Steve Aitken, Deputy Speaker of the Northern Ireland Assembly and former leader of the Ulster Unionist Party. Great to hear from him. 7:15. 0344 499 1000. What are you waking up to? The second night of protest in Belfast. We don't condone it. Police clashing with rioters in hooded gear near a hotel housing migrants, water cannons, bricks, bottles. This all, of course, in response to that 30-year-old Sudanese animal who tried to behead Stephen Ogilvie. There has been outrage, naturally, but what is absolutely obvious is that, of course, nobody would condone what went on, right? Nobody. But there are no solutions. Yesterday, our Prime Minister Millie stands up and goes, I don't want to see this, I don't like it. Well, what about dealing with an issue, mate, that is galvanising the people in your country? Tracy, good morning.
Morning, Jezza. Do you know the immigration problem in America? All it took to solve it was a change of president. That says it all. We know what we've got to do. We've got to get rid of all the Conservatives, all the Labour, and restart all over again. Clean it all out, the lot gone.
To the calls now, and Kevin is in Basingstoke. Morning, Kevin. Hey. Kevin, what do you think of this cycling conversation?
Well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to
disagree with me.
Yeah. I mean, there's far more accidents caused by cars than bikes.
Yeah, we're not talking about cars, Kevin. We're talking about bikes.
I know we're talking about bikes, but if we encourage more bikes, then there'll be less accidents. More people.
More people on bikes who are not being controlled by anything.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. What is it? Almost 7:20. It's Thursday morning. Thank you for tuning in. If you want to be on 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. So, all about the second night of rioting in Belfast. New details emerging, by the way, of an asylum system that basically fast-tracks people from Southern Ireland to Northern Ireland on a bus, which just about sums up how much of a mess we're in. Overnight, a new poll suggesting that 1 in 3 Brits believe police treat ethnic minorities more favourably than white people. Sean, good morning.
Morning, Jeremy and team. Sean from Leicester. These politicians, mate, how do they look at themselves in the mirror in the morning when they're getting ready for work? Do you think they're actually looking at themselves and thinking that oh, I'm doing a good job today, or I'm going to do this, this is positive, that's positive? Or are they, like I suspect, looking in the mirror thinking, I need to hang on for as long as I can, I need to get some more money in, I need to sort pensions, I need to sort payouts, while the rest of us hard-working alarm clock Brits who put God knows how many hours in a week just to survive are going to the grot box and getting reduced food just so that we can feed our kids. It beggars belief, mate. Our country is absolutely, oh, mate. Anyway, keep up the good work. Keep letting us know. Keep telling the normal people of the UK what the other stations and TV programmes don't.
I'll do my best. Thank you very much indeed. 0344 499 1000, 20 past 7. Let's go to a good friend. I love having this man on. Commentator, a reporter, good top man. Mail on Sunday. Dan Hodges, good morning.
Good morning.
Yesterday's show, I know we were going to have you on, was naturally dominated by what happened in Belfast, and I'll make the point to you, Dan, before we get deeper into Starmer and stuff. Nobody can condone what they saw, but I'm guessing you would join most of us by saying that the British public are simmering and boiling. Violence is not the answer, but they're not being listened to, and this issue is not going away, is it?
Well, I'd say a couple of things. I mean, certainly the issue is not going away. I mean, I've been on this programme many, many times, and we've discussed the broader issues of immigration. We've discussed the broader issue of illegal migration, the economic, cultural problems arising from that, and the failure of parties of all descriptions to get to grips with it. On this one, though, I would separate what the broader mood of the country is and the pictures that you're broadcasting this morning and the scenes that we've seen in Northern Ireland. Because I've been around the country a lot talking. I've been to sort of what's called the Red Wall. I've been to sort of north, south, east, and west in the country. People across the country are very, very angry. They're very alarmed. They're very obviously shocked, angered by the incidents that we've all been reporting the last couple of weeks. But they're not going out and doing the things that we're currently seeing on your TV, on being broadcast on the screens at the moment. The people who are going out and, in my view, the people who are going out and committing the violence, who are burning their neighbours out of their homes, who are indiscriminately targeting people who are migrants, who they think are migrants, who are entirely innocent. I don't think they're doing this out of some sort of sense of anger at migration. I think the guys we're seeing in the hoodies throwing sort of bricks at the police are doing it because they get off on it. I think they enjoy it.
And it's a sad thing, because it does the argument, the debate that's needed, the issues, the root cause that we all need to get to. It doesn't deal with that, of course.
No, that's
completely.
a very good point. That's another thing. We have this whole thing about, it's deflection. People are trying to shut down the debate. Some people may be trying to shut down the debate, but obviously the debate can't be shut down. But equally, you cannot have a sensible and rational debate about this stuff, and the debate we all need to have, against a backdrop of, as I say, people burning.
No, Dan. I've said it all along, but my point is, and I've been really careful to describe this in the right way, is there are millions of people who would say to that, I have voted against illegal immigration. I have spoken out against illegal immigration. I'm not justifying, I'm just giving you an example. What else are we supposed to do? What they haven't shown on those pictures, there were thousands of people in Belfast trying to peacefully protest because they feel threatened.
No, that's exactly right, and that's the point I'm trying to make. I think you're absolutely right about people's anger, people's frustration.
Doesn't do anybody
saying,
any
look,
favours.
consistently we voted in a particular way. We've asked, we've demanded, we've begged, and we haven't been listened to. I completely understand that. But those people are, in my view, separate from the sort of people that are committing the acts of violence that we're seeing, that we've seen over the last two nights.
Couldn't agree more. I thought this was quite interesting. Did you see the exchange between Starmer and Richard Tice yesterday?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I think, and as you know, nobody's more critical than Keir Starmer than me, and I think Maybe slightly less so in relation to this incident, but certainly and I said this at the time, I thought Keir Starmer's response to the Henry Novak murder and the Henry Novak verdict at a time when the country was desperately looking for leadership. As I said at the time, I thought he was missing in action on that. But frankly, I think Keir Starmer's becoming an irrelevance now, politically and in broader leadership terms.
I couldn't agree more. Kemi Baden.
But just to say specifically on Richard Tice, and I've been critical of the Tories, I've been critical of Labour, I'm now going to be critical of reform. Richard Tice has got some front in terms of what he said yesterday, because there are two people who have direct responsibility for allowing the guy who is the alleged Belfast attacker into the country. And that is two of Richard Tice's current colleagues, Suella Braverman and Robert Jenrick, who were Immigration Minister and Home Secretary at the time this guy was allowed in the country. Now, there are two things in relation to this. The first is, my understanding is, there is a little bit of confusion, but on the one hand, the reports have been the guy was given an indefinite leave to remain.
Yep.
Now, that is, in many instances, a discretionary award. It's something that is given to people who don't meet the criteria for full asylum, but it's like, well, we'll let you stay in the country anyway. That was granted by these two. There are also reports today, I think we've reported it in the Daily Mail, that actually this guy was, far from go through the normal checks or the rigorous checks that required, was actually fast-tracked in terms of his application, because there was a fast-track scheme that was in place that allowed people to apply for asylum without the normal interview process.
I think it was Sunak wanting to lose a waiting list of 92,000, wasn't it?
It was an attempt to try and reduce the asylum backlog. Now, at the time, Suella Braverman and Robert Jenrick were perfectly happy. Whatever they subsequently did and whatever,
But didn't they both resign from government? Because
they didn't resign over this. They didn't resign over this. Okay. They were resigning over broader issues in relation to the small boats, in relation to broader migration policy. They didn't stand up and say, "I am resigning over this particular scheme." Indeed, they stayed in post and oversaw people like this guy being let into the country via this scheme. And I have not yet seen from Richard Tice, Nigel Farage, Suella Braverman or Robert Jenrick anyone stand up and say, "Okay, fair enough, we were the ones that got that wrong."
Well, they're going to have to do that. They're going to have to do that
because they're very good. And you and I would agree on the criticism that is delivered on the previous Tory government and obviously Keir Starmer and the Labour government. But, we hear a lot from them about, we want an honest debate, we want an open debate.
Yep.
They're very good at calling the odds and saying the previous...
Completely with you, said it earlier.
...administration apologise for its failures. Right, let's see them put their money where their mouths are. Yep. Let's see Suella Braverman stand up today and Robert Jenrick stand up today and say, fair cop, we both got that wrong.
I couldn't agree with you more. I said it the other day. I said it this morning on the show. Can I put this to you? I know... We're in Purda, so we'll have to list the candidates. Makerfield is next. I think it's next Thursday, isn't it? The by-election that Andy Burnham is standing in for Labour. He makes no secret of the fact that he wants to win. Makerfield, come to Westminster. I said that like I was there. Go to Westminster and challenge Keir Starmer. Suddenly he is the saviour. I don't know whether that's true or not. Do you think, here's a question for you from Amanda, says, could you please ask the excellent Dan Hodges this? Does he think that the horrendous events in Belfast and the simmering discontent that most of this country seems to feel about the attempts to control immigration or lack of it will influence the results of the upcoming election in Makerfield in any way?
I'm not sure. My understanding at the moment is that it won't, just for a number of reasons. Makerfield, I've been to Makerfield a lot. Makerfield is a very, very localised campaign. Obviously, we've got this backdrop of Andy Burnham and get rid of Keir Starmer. But aside from that, it's very localised. Andy Burnham is pitching himself as a local guy. Obviously, Robert Kenyon's pitching himself as a local guy. The other candidates there are other candidates available, are all pitching themselves as local people, and that's the broader backdrop to it. I do think, I mean, I was up there last week. There's obviously a lot. This was whilst when Henry Novak was dominating the headlines. There was a lot of concern up there. People were angry. I'm only going to say what I found. There was a concern amongst people I was speaking to that Nigel Farage, with his comments, had misjudged the mood in the moment and wasn't sufficiently understanding what the family had been saying about let's try and calm things down. And I think the other thing, my other understanding is, to the extent that these issues are feeding into the by-election, the party that is actually maybe benefiting from the anger that is being seen is Restore. Now, this is a big, this is going to be a big part of the story. There's a huge debate. Nigel Farage was saying yesterday, look, people don't really know who Restore Rupert Lowe is. People don't know what's, when we get to the ballot box, that their support's going to collapse. I'm not sure about that. Everything I'm hearing from people of completely different, people across the political spectrum, is that Restore are doing better than the polling indicates. And I was speaking to somebody yesterday who was saying, in particular, they thought that if for people who were feeling a need to demonstrate the ballot box over some of these issues, they were actually, if anything, more aligned with Restore than Reform. But
it's really interesting, though, isn't it? Because therein starts a whole debate that we'll no doubt have for the next 3 years, that if the right vote is split, you will end up getting the left continuing. Can I ask you also about Kemi Badenoch? We like to try and talk about everybody. She said yesterday, which is quite interesting, that Labour's woke equality laws have easily contributed to some of Britain's most notorious recent killings. She obviously agreeing that there's two-tier policing, that woke laws are sending policemen and women out onto the streets with one hand tied behind the back. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would. I wouldn't. As I said, I wouldn't use. I've said this before. I wouldn't use the term two-tier policing because we can't completely erase history. Obviously, we had a significant period, where it was very clear that there was racism in.
But you know me. I'm straight with you, and you're straight with me. I accept that, but it's gone the other way, Dan. You've got to accept
that's exactly what I was going to say. No, I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
But we need the first bit, and the reason we need the first bit is just
absolutely.
Because I write for the Mail on Sunday and the Daily Mail. My newspaper was at the forefront of the campaigning around the time of the Stephen Lawrence incident, which drove a lot of the necessary reforms. So I'm not going to just sit here and pretend,
I've said it every day. There was racism in the police in the 70s and 80s, but in my mind, with so much DEI, we have gone completely the other way. Box ticking has taken everything over, and now there's no bloody common sense, man.
No, exactly. And as you've said, as with so many of these issues, and Kemi Badenoch said it herself and was absolutely right, there's now been a major overcorrection to the point where, at the best, the police can't do their jobs properly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And at the worst, it ends up in the appalling instance that we saw with Henry Novak. And again, I've been completely clear. I've been critical of Kemi Badenoch in the past. I think Kemi Badenoch, uniquely, is of the main party leaders, is the one that, over the course of this, has actually properly spoken for the country. I think she's the one who has got the tone absolutely right.
Right place, right person, wrong time, mate, because her party's still toxic, isn't it? That's the fact.
Absolutely. But if the Tories are going to recover, you've got to start with the leader. And I think, as I said, at a very difficult and dangerous time for the country, I think Kemi Badenoch has been showing leadership.
Great, mate. Great to have you on. No news on how long Starmer will survive. It's all down to Burnham, I guess, right?
We're all this, I'll fight on. He won't. He's not. If he tries to, he's not going to be given the opportunity. So we really, and I've said it before, we really are in the end game now.
Dead man walking. Dan Hodges, thank you so much indeed. Writer for the Mail and the Mail on Sunday. Listen, only fair when we're talking about Makerfield. It's next Thursday. We are in the business of just reporting. It's up to you what you do. Here is a previously recorded list of... This is a public service announcement, my friends. Jake Austin stands for the Liberal Democrats. Count Binface for his own party, Count Binface Party. Andy Burnham, of course, the Labour Party. Dan Clark, the Libertarian Party. John Dyer for the Independents. Ed Gemmell, the Climate Party. Paul Gould, the Independent. Alan Howling, Lord Hope, the official monster raving loony party. Robert Kenyon, Reform UK. Robert Pownall, Protect the Wild. Rebecca Shepherd, Restore Britain. Sarah Wakefield, the Green Party. Peter Ward, Rejoin the EU. And Michael Winstanley, the Conservative Party. That's your list of candidates. Here we are at 7:35. We're live across the UK. It's Talk Breakfast, the home of common sense. Benedict Spence this hour, Rafe Heidelmann-Koo. So many guests. Sarah Vine this morning as well. We'll go back to Ireland. It's all about that set night of clashes in Belfast. Rioters in headgear clashing with police, bricks, bottles, water cannons being used. Listen, Dan Hodges is right, and I've said it from day one. There is no way that what you're seeing on your screens helps the issue. It actually helps politicians like Starmer fudge dealing with why this is going on, why we are allowing unvetted young men into our country who have absolutely no regard for our values, laws, language, way of life, who think it's OK to just sort of casually try and behead somebody on a Sunday night. That's what we're dealing with. Sorry, Dan, says Sean in Burlington. Suella was sacked for trying to do her job. Sunak sacked her. Jenrick resigned because Sunak wouldn't let him do his. The fast-track scheme was down to Sunak trying to clear the 92,000 backlog before he took the country into an election that he damn well knew he couldn't win. Morning, Jane.
If I hear these politicians, especially Keir Starmer, saying unacceptable, what's unacceptable is somebody trying to behead a man in the street. What's unacceptable is a policeman telling a young lad that he's not been stabbed. What's not unacceptable is Rihanna White being stabbed on her way home. What's unacceptable is the 7/7 bombings where somebody went round and put bombs on public transport. What's unacceptable is the Manchester Arena bombings. Shall I go on? What's unacceptable is Lee Rigby. The Conservatives and Labour have got a lot to answer for.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 23 minutes to 8 o'clock. This hour at Rafe Heidelmann-Koo on the way. Benedict Spence as well. Your calls on 0344 499 1000. I just, in a sea of misery, I just read a text. I was just wondering if I could text on this number. I'm in Australia. That's from Bob House. What if he'd been a priest? He'd have been Bob Monkhouse. I'm sorry, it was rubbish. It's just the way my day is going. 0344 499 1000. Morning, Kev.
Morning, Jezza. I hope you're well, mate. These protests that are going on, you've got to understand it. Firstly, peaceful protests that we're advised to do are ignored. Look at them all. Look at the ladies in Epping, the pink ladies. Look at the mass protests, the Unite the Kingdom. Every single protest we do peacefully is ignored. And if there's any trouble, then you're called far right. So you can understand why people have gone to these lengths. But I actually think the government want this. I really do. They want the division. They want people to do this because then you're all on CCTV. You're all likely to vote against Labour. They will therefore arrest you and hopefully put sentences on you. Please, people, Just don't do it. Don't do it. Don't give them what they want. Anyway, mate, have a good one.
Brilliant. How does he sound in the morning? What does he sound like at midnight? 0344 499 1000. Let's go to Belfast live. Alan, good morning. How are you?
Hi, Jeremy. Good morning. I'll tell you why I'm calling. How much more does the British people in Northern Ireland need to take? First, there was Chris Donald in Glasgow.
Yeah.
Lee Rigby.
Yeah.
Then the Manchester Arena, 7/7 bombing. And then we're forced to live with people in our own communities who don't assimilate, who don't abide by the same laws. But we are forced. How much more does the people of Northern Ireland, Great Britain, need to take? The people in Stormont, the local councillors in Stormont and Westminster, right across the whole of the UK, they don't live in this working society, council estates. They don't see what's going on. People's daughters raped. They're living in a bubble and they're not hearing. These rights is just the start. The government want the UK to break into civil war.
Well, I don't know whether they do. I'm not. Listen, everybody's entitled to their opinion, but one thing I will say, I said it to Dan and I'll say it to you, the pictures that we're showing, water cannons, bricks, bottles, it doesn't help. It doesn't help the cause. It gives politicians an absolute right to stand around and say they're all thugs, they're all far right. What frustrates me is that we're seeing means that people like Starmer and his ilk, Jerry Bloody Adams, who tweeted this morning about racism, and Michelle O'Neill, the Sinn Féin boss of Ireland, the one who was part of the IRA, affiliated to the IRA, none of these people will give any of us any answers as to how they're going to deal with illegal immigration whilst thugs in hoodies are doing what they're doing. That is an absolute fact. Let's say a very good morning to Rafe Heidelman-Koo. I love having this man on. He is a legend in many... What do you mean he's not ready? You put next Rafe Heidelman-Koo, man. Oh, they're having an argument. Oh, my God. Dean and Tommy are at it like a couple of... Wow. Morning, Andy.
Morning, Jezza. Andy from Birmingham. Great show, mate. Absolutely first-class show. Unmissable. I've just seen your interview with Dan Hodges, and, like, oh, my God. I think he's obviously interviewing to be Burnham's client journalist, like the new Beth Rigby, as with Starmer. You only got to read what he's been, you know, I know, like, X's and everything, but he does use X a lot, and he's basically anti-reform, and now he's beginning to, like, big up Restore, because obviously they're against reform in that by-election. Sorry, mate, you might have to say all those names again. But, oh, my God, it's so plain to see. It's unreal.
Also, yeah, listen, I will say this about Dan. Dan has been supremely critical of Starmer and the Labour government and has been behind attempts to face the truth about Mandelson. Everybody's entitled to an opinion. I'm really happy with that, but I get your point. You know the bloke who... This is ridiculous now. You know the bloke who I called Bob House, who texted from Australia, and I said that if he was a priest, he could have been Bob Monkhouse. Thank you, Pete. What if he'd been crazy? Would it have been Bob Nuthouse? Listen, I've more important things to deal with, please. Is he ready now? Right, have we stopped having a bitch? Rafe Heidelman-Koo, a very good morning, sir. Welcome to Talk Breakfast. How are you?
Good morning, Jeremy.
Legend. Yesterday, I let myself loose with the microphone, and I make no apology for it. I'd love your take on this. I fervently do not in any way condone what's happened. And in fact, you heard me just say that that is counterproductive to allowing or forcing politicians to simply put their heads above the parapet and tell us how they're going to stop this. But even I was open-mouthed. I'm always open-mouthed when I listen to Kevin O'Sullivan, but I was open-mouthed at 4:20 yesterday because after everything had happened, Rafe, there was a politician from the Alliance Party called Nuala McAllister who seems to believe that nothing that's happening in Ireland has got anything to do with immigration. Have a watch, have a listen. What is your feeling
about what should be done about this, because there is this kind of weird backdoor route into the UK via the border.
I have to interrupt you there, because I actually don't believe that the trigger for this has been the migrant crisis. I think the trigger for this is people using it.
You think they just did it for no reason whatsoever? You think they rioted last night for no reason?
I think the people
are using this as an opportunity. Nuala, they didn't riot for no reason.
They are using this as an opportunity.
Well, hang on, Nuala, they did not riot for no reason.
There have been plenty of people who have come on.
So why did they riot? Why did they take to the streets last night?
There have been plenty of.
Why did they? Can you answer that question? Why did they take to the streets last night then?
They took to the streets last night because they were thugs who wanted to engage in violence.
What about the peaceful protesters? There were peaceful protesters all over Northern Ireland as well.
People have a perfectly right. They have a right, as they always should, to protest.
Yes,
but people
exactly.
do not have a right to illegally protest. But there is always going to be a difference of opinion when it does come to whether it's a legal migrant or an illegal migrant, whether it's a person who has come here to seek refuge, or whether it's someone who's come here to work.
Rafe, help me out, because it's in the end I end up sitting in a room shouting at myself. Why are people like her still using the word refugee? This was an unvetted, evil, violent thug who thought it's OK where he comes from to try and hack somebody's head off in broad, bloody daylight. That is a failed immigration system putting British people in danger, isn't it?
That's exactly what it is. And the reason you're seeing this frustration boil out, and yes, we obviously all condemn the acts of violence that we've seen. Violence is never the solution to any of this. But the reason we're seeing this, it's pure frustration. And after year after year after year, the warning signs have all been there. Britain is at boiling point, and they see idiots like that woman and others representing them politically still unable and unwilling to accept the reality which everybody else can see. And when your elites refuse to do what needs to be done, unfortunately, some people take things into their own hands. And this is just the beginning. You know, Belfast is basically, Ireland, you see, the thing about Ireland is that Ireland for so long had to struggle for its independence, fight for its identity. And so it knows being eroded before. They struggled against the British and the Hungarians. The migration, because they know what it's like to lose their identity. They were under the jackboot of the communists. We in this country, in England, in the mainland, we've never actually experienced any of that. So we've been too slow. That's why you see in the south, in the Republic of Ireland and in the north of Ireland, they've been much more vocal, much more assertive about rejecting migration. But now you're seeing this also happening in the mainland, in Great Britain as well. And it's because people are tired of the gaslighting. Every single time you get one of these situations, be it Henry Novak, be it this time, the immediate reaction of our media class and our political class is deflection, is to gaslight, to blame Nigel Farage, to blame Rupert Lowe, to blame the far right, where of course we know what the trigger was. It wasn't the far right, it was our immigration policy. And I think one of the reasons they're unwilling to actually name this is because they know that they are the ones that are guilty. It's our political class and our media class who have blood on their hands for continually trying to suppress anyone who wants to call out the disastrous policies of immigration, and they have essentially enabled all of this stuff happening.
I couldn't agree more. Let's not forget, of course, there were riots in Dublin last year after a little girl was stabbed by an Afghan, all tarnished as right-wing. They're going to keep doing it. And the problem is, you know, I get, right, I don't even know what those pictures are. Oh, there's peace. Right, there you are. There are peaceful people walking day 2 of the order, and they're being done by water cannons. I don't condone any of the thuggery. I don't consider any of it helps the cause. But unfortunately, we will have, as you quite rightly put, gaslighting again and again, because they either... Well, people say to me they cannot sort immigration. I don't think they want to sort immigration. I have a very cynical view of why successive governments have flooded this country, be it to... I don't even know. They came out with excuses, didn't they, Rafe, in the past about fruit pickers, hospital porters. We need people. We'll get 2 million of the lazy buggers who haven't actually got anxiety and depression off the dole and make them do it in return for what we're paying, and close your borders. But it's that whole sort of human rights. I mean, the look on Hilary Benn's face, I think it was yesterday or the day before, when somebody said... Jim McAllister, brilliant MP from Ulster, he said it's an alien culture. And he went, What do you mean an alien culture? And Richard Tye shouted out, beheading. That's not a civilised thing, is it? By the way, just to get me completely going, Michelle O'Neill, did you see her yesterday?
No, I didn't see her.
First Minister of Ireland from Sinn Féin, who were affiliated and supported the IRA, who blew people up in the streets. This was her yesterday. This is what she thinks of it.
People were concerned, people were worried for safety, all very understandable emotions. But what we saw spill onto our streets since Monday night has been nothing short of thuggery. What we saw has been nothing short of racism. We saw youths taken to the streets, young men masked, attacking families, burning them out of their homes, attacking public property, attacking businesses. All we've seen is criminality on our streets and a real I think a real attempt to underline racism in our society, which I do not believe is widespread.
I hate and abhor all racism, Rafe, but criminality on the streets, has people forgotten what the IRA did then, or am I missing the point there?
Yeah, the sheer audacity of someone from Sinn Féin to actually get out the nerve to say something like that. And of course, there is going to be a huge backlash now against Sinn Féin because the nationalists who want to have a united Ireland do not want to see this sort of an island develop in this country. And so, ironically, Sinn Féin could be the own sort of master of their own downfall, thanks to embracing these sort of crazy far-left policies. It's the same thing with the young new mayor of Belfast. This young lady who's the new mayor of Belfast just the other day was celebrating diversity as a great strength. Well, people can see the results of diversity now on the streets. And what you're seeing in Belfast is coming to the mainland. And it's interesting that it happened in Belfast because, you know, we often talk about civil war coming to this country. I think civil war, people think of things like the American Civil War, the English Civil War. That's not what's happening. We're going to see Northern Ireland sectarianism on the British mainland. So what you're seeing now in Belfast is coming to our shores here in England.
Now, how do you answer the... I'm with you, 1,000,000%, you know that, we're friends. How do you answer the people that will listen to what you've just said, as they did with Farage, as they did with Tyson, they'll no doubt do with anybody on there. I was slaughtered yesterday for daring to say this will happen if you bring people into this country who don't have your values, your morals, your language, and will not abide by your laws. People will look at what you've just said, it's coming to the mainland, and they'll say, that Ray Heidelman, he's inciting that. By talking about it, he's inciting it. What's your answer to that, Rafe?
Wake up. The time for being scared about how people are going to react to what you're saying is over. We are facing an existential crisis in this country. I can't put it more bluntly than that. I don't care about being called racist any longer. Everyone knows I'm not racist. I'm a culturalist. I believe in preserving British culture and British identity. I don't mind living in a multiracial society, but the sort of multicultural society we've had where we've been too scared to say that the emperor has no clothes, those days are gone. And what really frustrates me about all of this, since, well, for over a decade now, and you get people like Kemi Badenoch and others now making very, very good speeches, but where were they? You know, 2010 is when the Tories came to power, and they've done nothing. The supposedly conservative government party in office, they could have reversed the equality law that, of course, she's now saying needs to go. They did none of that, and it's the political class who have to bear responsibility for all of this, and it's the hypocrisy as well, because people condemn Nigel Farage for inciting violence or whatever. Absolute nonsense. He spoke about cold rage. Well, I'm sorry. David Lammy spoke about righteous anger when we had the death of George Floyd.
Can I jump in there about George Floyd? Because I know you'll agree with me. Yeah. Starmer talked about fury. David Lammy talked about uncontrolled anger. We had a minute's bloody silence in the House of Commons and the House of Lords. The whole world seemingly took the knee. Nothing so far for Henry Novak. Nothing at all. It's so hypocritical. And my real point, and I'm glad that you've brought it up, when Nigel Farage stood up and said that, my initial reaction was that he was absolutely the pulse of what this country was thinking he was talking about. And that's what I want my politicians to do. I don't want to be gaslit. I don't want excuses made. I don't want to be told that I'm some far-right thug. If I think it's abnormal, which it is, by the way, for a man to behead somebody else who's come here illegally, why the hell can't I stand and say that? And I have to listen to these lefties tell me, well, he's come from a war-torn country. Well, stay in France, mate, or the other 6 countries you've come through. I can't do it. It drives me insane, Rafe.
Yeah, Nigel was giving voice to the feelings of the nation, couched in real terms, not dealing with the politically correct sort of newspeak that we get today from too many politicians. And they say things like, don't politicise this. I'm sorry, David Lammy et al. Were the first ones to politicise the death of George Floyd. And here's the difference. When you got the rioters coming out for BLM, the shopping rioters who were actually going and trying on Nike shoes, they were so distraught about the death of George Floyd. What happened with British politicians? They were all saying, well, we understand your anger. We know why you're doing this. Please don't be violent, but we need to understand what's making you do that. They never do that when it's white people. When Southport's rioters took to the streets and peaceful people protested, here again in Belfast, suddenly they forget about this need to understand why these things are happening. Instead, they're all dismissed as far-right thugs. Once again, you can see two-tier Britain in full evidence here, and it stinks to high heaven.
Just before you go, and we love having you on, immigration, this morning when I read this, I just thought I literally am going to have to go and live on an island somewhere. Immigration officers, we found out today, have been warned that wearing England badges could be seen as intimidating to detainees. So here's the thing, right? You break into this country illegally, you stood in front of an immigration official who's trying to find out whether you've any damn right to be here, and apparently if you've got the Union Jack on your shirt or a badge or whatever, that's going to make that person feel uncomfortable.
This gets to the crux of the whole issue of what's wrong with this country. You know, we are so afraid of causing offence. We are so embarrassed by our own culture and our own history. Then people are surprised that people aren't assimilated. Is there actually for anybody to buy into Britain or to respect this country when we don't respect ourselves, when we're constantly wearing horsehair shirts and navel-gazing and apologising for everything else? You know, countries like China and Russia are laughing at us because mature countries are strong and self-confident. And when Britain and the West were at their strongest and dominated the world, it's because we knew who we were self-confident, and we were proud. And now, of course, it's no irony that Britain and the West are at their weakest when we've lost all of those essential qualities. It's time we stop promoting minority cultures, and we were proud to promote the one culture that unites and unifies all people, and that's British culture. And for too long, we haven't done that. And we need to have, you know, we're all talking about identity politics. Well, there's one identity that applies to everybody, and that's our British identity. And I'm sorry if some migrant finds that unpalatable. You can, you know, you can go home to where you came from.
Completely. Rafe, great, mate. Love having you on. We thank you so much. The audience agree with almost everything, as I do. Rafe, Haidel Manku. Now, I promised you this. Nigel Farage, leader of Reform, will be on this show after the news at 8. Whatever you want to ask him, 8722 or 0344 499 1000. Nigel Farage is next on Talk after the news at 8 on the home of Common Sense. Nigel Farage next.
The Crown is facing its gravest test in decades, and the royal tea from Talk is your front row seat. With royal reputations under pressure and probing questions about public trust, we unpack every twist and revelation with the biggest names in the business. From the throne room at Buckingham Palace to a mansion in Montecito, we follow every royal ripple. Never miss a moment of The Crown in Crisis. Subscribe to The Royal Tea from Talk on the app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
You know, you have to remember that Peter Murrell has been the chief executive of the SNP for nigh on a quarter of a century. He's been with Nicola Sturgeon since 2003. She said that she didn't have access to his personal records. They had separate bank accounts, so we can take, well, what you want from all of that. The list that you gave is unbelievable. 124,000 in a camper van, Fortnum and Mason's picnic hampers, a couple of lawnmowers, one for 3,000 quid, 3 dynamic Savile umbrellas, £970. The list goes. A wine coaster. I needed to look up what a wine coaster was. 3,500 quid. So the list goes on.
When you're talking about crimes as vicious as rape, serial murder, really depraved crimes, it's quite clear to me that the usual considerations around whether you should be lenient because of this context, whether or not there should be more room for rehabilitation in that context, just don't apply. From the simple commonsensical basis that if someone is capable of doing that, they're a threat to society.
But this is the thing,
I don't want to take that risk.
If these kids genuinely, you know, and they are kids, everyone involved's a kid. I mean, it's just absolute travesty. If they don't know that all of these things are wrong, then by definition, we need them off the street.
So there's now a label for children who skip school. You know, parents can't sort it out. In the old days, I used to think that skipping school was against the law. You know, and parents used to be taken to court. Well, no longer anymore. They found a label now, Ian, which allows them to sit at home. Again, I keep saying, on tablets, wasting their time.
Wow.
Universities. Let's get everyone going to university. Well, I think a fundamental job of education is to prepare children for the society they're going to live in a positive way, i.e. prepare them for a job. You've got the welfare state, I've already said, wonderful thing, isn't it? But a safety net, not a way of life.
Henry Novak's last words were, "I can't breathe," as he was handcuffed, having been stabbed not only in the front but in the back as well, Okay, he stabbed him in the chest twice, stabbed him in the face once, stabbed him in the back of the leg twice. I mean, what an attack. Let's wait and see what sentence this vile piece of garbage gets. Of course, none of it of which will bring back dear Henry. May his soul rest in peace.
It's just so shocking, Pete, I mean, we're so used to criticising the police for mistakes. This is the worst one I've ever come across.
But it's where you've got with this woke, fluffy, liberal, progressive nonsense.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back or welcome along. Just gone 8 on Thursday, the 11th of June. You would talk across the home of common sense and where the alarm clock Brits come and have their say. As ever, we want you to be part of it. 0344 499 1000. Your text to 87222. We are reporting, of course, the second night of unrest in Belfast. Rioters in hoods clashing with police near a hotel housing migrants. There were water cannons, bricks, bullets, all sorts of things. And I make my point, I've made it all morning. We don't condone that. What that does, though, is that dissipates the argument and it doesn't allow or force politicians like Starmer to actually explain what he's going to do about a problem that is not going away. And yesterday I said the same. The show went nuts. I got slaughtered by people on the left saying, by talking about it, you're inciting it. No, I'm not. I'd never incite it or condone it. What I'm saying is this. They cannot hide their heads in the sand anymore. If you let unfettered men into this country whose values, morality, the way they behave, OK, to just run amok and what, attempt to behead somebody in broad daylight, that's not what we, the United Kingdom, has ever been about. Before Nigel Farage, and Nigel Farage will be on the show in 1 minute, I want to replay yesterday a caller, Rob. This went viral. This ended up in Fox News in America. It ended up in Australia. People were saying all around the world, that's what British people now think. Have a listen to Rob from yesterday.
Morning, Jez. On my way to work, as normal. Listening to you talk about the thing that happened in Belfast last night, all the unrest. Well, yes, rightly, you shouldn't condone what happened. What else have people got to do? They're not listening. The political class are not listening. These people who are coming over here illegally, they're rapists, terrorists. They're coming over here. It's literally like putting a wolf in a sheep field. You are giving them a target-rich environment. You haven't vetted them. You've done nothing. All you've done is dump them in a place where they can wreak havoc. Where they come from, guess what? There's no law. If they can do literally whatever they like. They come over here, there's lawyers, of course, taxpayer funded. They get a nice cushy home, running water, Sky TV, gym memberships, bus passes. They can literally go where they want and create havoc. And when they do, the people that foisted them upon us, guess what? They say, don't get upset. Don't do anything. Don't go out and cause unrest. Well, I'll tell you what, mate. Stop reaping, then you might not have to sow it, because this country is absolutely on the edge. They cannot take much more of people getting stabbed, raped, blown, foisted it upon us for the last 25, 30 years, ever since Blair said, I'm going to rub your noses in it. Well, guess what? What goes round comes round. And I think the political class have got a very, very, very big smack on the nose coming.
It was very passionate. It created huge response. We say a very good morning to the leader of Reform UK, Nigel Farage. Nigel, good morning.
Good morning. Well, that was very passionate, wasn't it, from Rob? And he's right to express that frustration. But you know, above all, what people want? Action.
Yeah.
We want some action. And there's none. There is literally none, other than just carry about your normal lives. Don't worry your poor little heads. Nothing to see here. And if you protest, well, we might have you sort of knock on the door for hate speech. Look, we know, and you've been very clear, that there were masked thugs again last night in Belfast. Now, you know, we've, of course, grown up with violence in Belfast for different reasons. None of us are condoning that. But you know what? The vast majority of people who were out on the streets on that first night were ordinary men and women, parents, grandparents, really scared, really worried. I mean, and don't forget, those older people, they've grown up through troubles. They've grown up through murder. They've grown up through bombings. They've now got a life of normality, and they do not want it threatened, and they will stand up to protect it. And you know something? In all the years that I've been doing this, it's over 30 years I've been involved in politics and current affairs and broadcasting. In all the years, I have never, ever known for Parliament, our MPs, members of the House of Lords, and the vast majority of mainstream media to be more out of touch with where the public is.
Couldn't agree more. And you know, I was at pains. We've talked a lot, and I was at pains yesterday to say I would never condone what I saw. But I'm also, and I'm happy to be removed from this studio, right? Because I genuinely am never going to not say that the boiling and simmering revulsion and anger, the sight of a man trying to behead somebody in a society that we all live in, is not normal. And unfortunately, when you get that violence, you know this, Nigel, it allows politicians like Starmer to completely deflect and gaslight and not give answers. And we know why he won't give answers. I mean, actually, I'm going to ask you, is it because he hasn't got a bloody clue, or because he doesn't want to do it because, yet again, he's too concerned about alienating a certain voter type? What is it? Why doesn't he deal with what's in front of him?
Well, certainly there is an open borders dimension to this. The hard left in Britain, the Greens, etc., these people believe that there's really no such thing as nation state, no need for borders of any kind at all. I mean, it's la-la land. It's la-la land.
It's absolute la-la land. But of course, there's also a very large number of Labour voters who believe in good, normal, decent things. And that, of course, is why their poll numbers have collapsed since the election, because they're deserting them. But ultimately, here's the thing. In Starmer's second speech as Prime Minister in the House of Commons back in July 24, he, without any particular reason, talked about the European Convention on Human Rights and his absolute devotion to it. And that, of course, means its incorporation into the Human Rights Act 1998, brought in by Tony Blair, which made so many lawyers very, very wealthy.
Very.
And all the while you're tied to that, and all the while you have a judiciary who, oh, by the way, as part of being a judge, you have to write a short essay on what you've done for diversity. You know, oh, yeah. All the while this stuff is deeply embedded, we will never be able to act and deal with it. And of course, he also fears that if we did, we'd get international condemnation. Just as, of course, Tony Abbott, who was the Australian Prime Minister in 2012.
Interviewed him, I have.
You know, and he saw, you know, they had boats coming, very similar problem, big fears in Australia about the identity of these young men. And in the end, Tony just towed the boats back to Indonesia, and the whole world went posse.
And guess what? You know this. And Albanese, who's a Labour politician, has kept that policy going in Australia, and they don't now have a problem. And the public in Australia have accepted that. The ECHR, it's interesting you brought that up, because I asked people if they wanted to throw a couple of questions at you. I hope you don't mind. Steve says, could you please ask Nigel what the time frame will be for getting out of the ECHR if, please God, he strides into number 10, because all I hear about, he says, is the civil service run this country, and all I want in Nigel is a man who will do something that needs to be done.
Yeah, we have to get rid of the Human Rights Act in its current form, in particular the part of it that incorporates ECHR into law in this country. And I think the honest truth is that this is the first major thing that a reform government needs to do. One, because, and by the way, I do agree with Jonathan Hall, KC, who's our czar in charge of terrorism legislation. He spoke out yesterday and said something that probably you and I have said, which is immigration is now a national security issue.
Yes.
So we have to deal with it for that reason. But secondly, I do sense increasingly people in this country feeling that democracy isn't working, that they're being promised things at election that politicians actually never intend to carry out. And so the reason we have to do this as quickly as we can, within weeks of winning an election, is we've got to restore some faith and trust that democracy works. Because you see, if democracy doesn't work, then you are left with civil disorder. That is the point.
And here's a question that I wanted to ask you, because we talked last week after you were... and I nailed it. I'll criticise anybody, but I thought you stood up and you spoke for the nation when you talked about Henry Novak. You were absolutely ridiculed and jeered in the House of Commons. And you talk about faith in politics, right? Look at Epping last year. Mothers terrified for their teenage daughters because the Bell Hotel's right next to a secondary school and 2 illegal migrants have attacked 2 young girls, right? Went to their local council, and I saluted Epping Forest Council. They went to court and said, we're going to close it. The government went to court and basically said, we're sort of preferring the views of migrants over our own indigenous population. That's why people have lost faith in British politicians, because, and I've said it to you before privately, every single day, all I hear from alarm clock Brits is, you know what, Nigel, I go to work, I pay my taxes, I live within the confines of the law, I might have a few quid at the end of the week for a pint, and I might be lucky to get away to Centre Parks with my 2 kids, but I look and I see people who come here illegally who have their backsides wiped, and it's not fair.
Fair. That's the word. That is the word. One of the great qualities of this country through the centuries has always been a sense of British fairness. And now it's not fair. Now we have 2-tier policing, as much as the Prime Minister denies it, 2-tier policing, written in code for our police to obey, which says, don't treat everybody the same, treat ethnic minorities with a higher priority than indigenous British people. And we have, as you say, people illegally coming into this country about whom we know absolutely nothing, other than some of them will do us great harm, and they go to the top of the social housing list. It's not fair. It's not right. And I really do think that talk about enough is enough because that's how people are feeling. And this government had better do something pretty damn quickly, but I doubt that it will.
When you're there and you're saying these things, and it's based on what you believe, and you can feel the emotion of the people in this country. Somebody asked me about you the other day. When you get castigated, I got it yesterday. You're a right-wing fascist. You're a this. You're a that. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I believe in the right things. I was brought up a Tory, as I'm sure you were. Low taxation, strong borders, a strong military, no law and no problems of law and order, because the copper was on the street, would drag you back home to your mam if you dared to nick a sweet from Woolies or whatever. None of that's around anymore. None of it. And I don't care. They can say what they want, but the misjudgment, I think, Nigel, of so many politicians now is that they don't actually sense what the silent majority think and want.
Because they don't come from a silent majority.
Yeah.
You have a look at the backgrounds of most members of Parliament, and what you'd like to see are some people who've done well in the trade union, people who've done well founding a charity, people who've been in the military, people who've been successful in business, people who've been senior lawyers. What you'd like is a mixture of people that represents a broad range of society. You have a look at these Labour MPs, you have a look at their backgrounds, it's nearly all public sector, think tanks, charity sector. It's coming from such a narrow segment of society. How many people in the House of Commons come from what we would call working class backgrounds? It's less than 5%.
Yeah.
How many people in the House of Commons have ever set up their own business or acted as a sole trader? Well, the answer is almost no one. So we don't have a representative political class. We have a cowardly career political class who don't like online nastiness and criticism. And to answer your question, how do I feel when I'm surrounded by 600 of them screaming blue murder at me? I couldn't give a damn.
I saw the look on your face, and I loved the comment. If you missed it, by the way, Nigel said last week that as he left, one of the oldest MPs leant in and went, "Farage, I think you've lost the House, but won the bloody country, dear boy."
Yes, he did. He did. And I think he was right.
Without...
Certainly.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been out and about, and we're not allowed to discuss by-elections, I'm sure, but I've been out and about meeting people.
Yeah.
I met a few hundred people yesterday on their doorsteps, chatting to them, and I genuinely think I'm more in touch with where people are and how they feel than 600 members of Parliament.
Final question for you. I'm going to love this. Have you got your Union Jack badge on today?
I've got Union Jack socks on.
Not allowed. Not allowed, Farage. No, listen. No, you're not allowed. Can I just tell you, this nearly sent me literally over the edge this morning. Immigration officers have been warned by the government that wearing England badges anywhere on their attire was going to be intimidating to a detainee. So let me just tell you this. If you break into this country, Nigel, please, if you become Prime Minister, do something like this, and you're standing there trying to justify why you've broken in illegally, if a Border Force official's daring to have anything to do with the Union Jack on his being, that's being unfair to the illegal migrant. I give up.
Well, you can't invent it. But I promise you, next Wednesday evening at 9 o'clock, when we kick off in our first game, I will have my Protestant George waistcoat on. Don't worry.
Good man. Listen, great to have you on, my friend. I know you're busy campaigning and stuff, but we appreciate the time very much on Talk. Thank you. So good. Nigel Farage, leader of Reform UK. Your response to that will come 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Jamie, good morning.
Morning, Jez. Jamie from Benfleet. Great show. Now, whilst I agree that violence is never the answer, it often forces the answer from the people that can give it to you. Where do they expect the people to go? We've had successive governments for the last 20 years have promised to sort it out. This goes back to Blair's times. You know, we handed them their sandwiches in a roadmap because Cameron said he'd sort out legal migration. Then he said we couldn't do it because of the Lib Dem coalition, so we gave him a mandate to do it on his own. Then we got Brexit in 2016. We said, look, we're done. We don't want any more, at that time, legal and illegal immigration. Then Theresa May comes along after Brexit. We gave her a mandate to get it done. They didn't. We gave Boris Johnson a mandate to get it done. He didn't. We even gave Labour a mandate, not me personally, but plenty of people did 2 years ago, fell for their propaganda that they'd sort it out. Where are you supposed to go when nobody listens and the problem gets worse and worse and worse. And every day we're turning the news on and hearing about another scandal involving illegal migration. I don't understand what else people are supposed to do. We've tried protesting, we've tried voting successive governments in, nothing has worked.
Some breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
That's something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
So this is a Talk exclusive we've been looking at. I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, do these people who lead us actually hate Britain?
Yeah.
Do they not love our country and everything that we've stood for?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 8:21. Thank you to Nigel Farage. Thank you for your response. John in Sutton, we love him. I pray he will be the next Prime Minister. He speaks for millions of Brits. Jay, Nigel, we need you. We need to deal with this immigration problem. Adi, thank you very much, Steve, for putting Nigel on. Very interesting to hear. He is our last hope, in my opinion. Can I just stop the action there at 8:22? Yesterday we were talking some terrible things and poor Oliver couldn't get a mention, but he sat in the car outside school. Oliver William Robin Kyle, a legend who's a YouTuber, apparently, already at the age of 6. He's going to school. Love you, boy. Love you, Rissy. And Mrs K will be going, thank God you've done that. Now I can get out of the damn car and get on with my day. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Of course, the only story in town. Second night of unrest in Belfast. Water cannons, bricks, bottles. All reaction, I guess, to the horrendous scenes of 2 nights before, where Stephen Ogilvie was attacked by a 30-year-old Sudanese immigrant who thought it was OK in broad daylight to try and behead this man. I will say this, nobody, Nigel made the point, I've made the point for 2 days, nobody can condone those violent scenes, and in fact, they're counterproductive. They're counterproductive because what they do is they allow politicians like Starmer to hide behind and say, I don't like violence. None of us do, Starmer, but you need to look at the root cause. You want honesty on this station? You've had Nigel Farage, now you've got the best author and columnist. Where will her cat be? A very good morning to Sarah Vine.
Good morning. How are you?
Where's Cersei?
I don't know, actually. We've moved house, so she's probably somewhere else. I don't know. She's around.
You've moved house?
Yes. Don't remember. I got chucked out of my rental because of Labour's Renters' Rights Act.
God, really?
21. Yeah, so I've moved to another rental.
Oh, bless you. Well, it's lovely to have you on. We always appreciate it. What was your response to Nigel Farage just then on the show, Sarah?
I thought he was very good. He is very good. I mean, you got to hand it to Nigel. He's been doing this for a very long time. And it is, all the things that he's been saying have, come to fruition. The difficulty is that, as you said earlier on, the so-called right, I don't think it is actually the right, I think it's the sensible wing of politics, is now very split. You got you got Restore, who are on the rise. You've got Nigel, and you've got the Tories, and all that does is it means that it's much more likely that we end up with another half-baked Labour government.
I mean, it's interesting this because I've had those conversations privately, and I believe that no party right now is going to say this might happen or this could happen because they're fighting their own corner. I have very strong beliefs that in the British people, actually, and I think they'll do, please God, the right thing. Obviously, always great to have you on. Second night of unrest in Belfast. You heard me talking about it there. Nobody condones the violence, but I was at pains yesterday, and I'll repeat it today, that I do understand the simmering, boiling revulsion and anger millions in this country feel. And because it seems our politicians will do nothing but stand up and say, well, this is wrong, without giving, reasons or plans on how they're going to make this better, my fear is that this isn't going to go away. And I absolutely refute that a politician that stands up and talks about it, or a radio or television station that does, is inciting it. That's our job, isn't it, Sarah?
Completely our job. And actually, I reject the accusation that the mainstream media has not been talking about it. On the Daily Mail, we talk about it literally on a daily basis.
No, but I will say, of course, I heard Dan on... listen, I'll be honest. The Times, the Telegraph, the Mail, Talk and GB, and I don't usually name other stations, but yesterday morning from 6 till 6:45, because I've got screens up, the BBC was inundated for 45 minutes with the referee from Somalia that Trump wouldn't let into the World Cup.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I mean the media has been talking about this for a long time.
Yep.
These people are frustrated. They are furious. No one is listening to them. No one listens to them. No one takes their opinion seriously. If they say anything at all, they're accused of being racist by as people who probably don't even. Who live in houses not anywhere near this kind of violence or this kind of behaviour. Do you know what I mean? They're completely isolated from it. The thing is, people take to the streets when they have no other choice, and that's what we're seeing here. We need to come out of the ECHR. That's something that both the Conservatives and Nigel Farage have said. It is a huge, massive problem. But one of the things I don't understand is why is it that we allow any men from foreign countries into this country? Because actually, if you look at the situation around the world, the only people who might actually need some help are women and children. If it was women and children coming over, I might have some sympathy.
Darren Jones said that 90% of the people arriving on boats are women and children. I dared to venture that wasn't right, and it went viral yesterday. That's complete, I nearly said the wrong words. Rubbish.
Not true. No. And if you look at the way women are treated in the countries where a lot of these people come from,
yes,
Afghanistan, Syria, the reason they behave in the way they behave is because they treat their women appallingly. So you have to ask the sort of cultural differences. This idea that women are just sort of chattels and possessions, you do what you like with them.
Precisely, and that's my whole point, that they use... I mean, did you see the woman with Kevin O'Sullivan last night, the Irish woman, Nuala...
yeah.
Did you see that? She went, it's not because of migration. Yes, it is because men who come from... It might be war-torn, with a completely different view of how to treat women or use swords are coming in here unvetted.
So bad men who are probably not welcome in their own countries because they've probably done bad things there are coming here, and they're being treated as though they were sort of, some sort of precious little babies. They're not. A lot of the people who are coming because they can't stay where they're not coming because they're refugees. They're not fleeing oppression. If it was, it's the women who would be fleeing oppression. It's the women of Afghanistan who can't go to school, can't work, can't do anything, can't leave the house. I can understand them coming, but they're not the ones coming. The ones coming are the ones who are mistreating them.
Well, I've always said the one thing that there's two things about, say, take that Sudanese piece of crap, for example, right? One, if I was living in I know I've repeated this, by the way, lovely for viewers. If I was leaving a war-torn country because there were bombs on my head, I'd bring the wife and kids with me. That'd be the first thing I'd do. And secondly, Sarah Vine, when I got to one of the 7 countries I have to go through from Sudan to get to Britain, none of which are at war, I'd go, oh my God, this is fantastic. But no, they come here because we're as soft as anything and we give more than anybody else.
to my next point, which is the problem. One of the big problems is that we simply don't punish this behaviour properly. So if you look at someone like, Valdo Colacaine, he's in a sort of, a nice rehabilitation mental facility. He's, these people, if they're not British nationals, which a lot of them are not, they should just be deported straight away.
Well, when politicians say they can't be, I've never understood that. Why is that?
Well, they because of the ECHR. So you need to come out of the ECHR. Yeah. But that is something that we've been talking about for years, and no one has had the courage to do it. But the thing is, the police are. Let's look at the Henry Nowak case. This is absolutely classic. The police and other institutions are so infected with the woke virus. They've been so indoctrinated to say, these people are actually, they're terrible victims. And they cannot. It's so inculcated in them. So we have to rewire that whole culture within our institutions, and we need people to apply common sense to situations, not to just, basically. It is prejudice. It's sort of it's the wrong way round, but it's a form of kind of. I've been told that all immigrants are good, therefore that means anyone who is in a situation of conflict with an immigrant is inherently bad, and that's what's happened, and that's happened over a long period of time.
Yeah.
And what you're seeing now, and Nigel said it, and other people have said it on your show, is people have been watching this happen, and they've been biting their tongues, and they've been biding their times on the assumption that politicians will sort it out.
Well, I also think that I think you're absolutely right, but I think the issue about why the silent majority have found their voice, because you're right, this has been going on for years and years and years, but suddenly. Not COVID, actually, but cost of living crisis. Your energy bills 3 times, your food 3 times. You can't find a copy, you can't go to a doctor, all the stuff that the left laugh at me about. But when you suddenly go, and Nigel used the word, you've used it, it's just bloody unfair if you're living your life perfectly within the law and you're struggling, and some person comes in and gets treated better, and that's not fair, is it?
Well, it's because the authorities always go after the people who are easy to go after. So, they won't go after the guy who's delivering drugs on a scooter travelling at 40 miles an hour in a bus lane, but they'll go over the school run mum who goes a mile over the 20-mile-an-hour limit. That's what they'll go for, because they can get that person. They can't get the other person. It's too difficult, it's too complicated, it requires hard work. So you've got a situation where people who do the right thing, people who behave well, people who are broadly law-abiding are treated like second-class citizens, and everybody else gets away with blue murder because no one has got the guts to do anything about it. And that is why this country is in such a mess, because people are furious about that, because and they're right to be furious about it. But and it's a perfect storm. It's not just what's happened in Belfast. It's not just Henry. It's everything. It's the constant weekly, monthly insults to people's integrity, to their morals, to their standards, to their culture that they're upset about.
Couldn't agree more. There's 2 things, because I know we have to move and you have to move, but I'm going to give you I'm going to give you these for your podcast and your article. I bet you don't know the first one. We had Emma Webber, Barnaby Webber, who was killed by Calicaine, one of the 3. His amazing mother. They'd finished the inquest or the inquiry last week. Calicaine's in that high security mental institution. It's earning £1,000 a month plus in benefits, Sarah Vine.
I know.
I can't, just can't.
I know.
I mean, that's something.
I know, it's shocking.
And perhaps this other one this morning, very quickly, immigration officers have been warned by the government that when an illegal migrant arrives in England, illegally, could I underline, and is detained, if you interview that person and you've got an English badge in any way on your person, that could be intimidating to the illegal migrant.
I mean, that is just a word beginning with B, isn't it?
I love you. I'm sorry we didn't see Cersei. I hope the new houses are out. I like the curtains. Anyway, it's a good start to my morning. But
they're not my curtains, but
Thank you so much. We love having you on. Sarah Vine on Talk Breakfast. Thank you very much indeed. Coming next, we have Samara Gill, and we'll talk also to Christian, our undercover reporter, who was out and about in Belfast last night. All of that after this break. We're coming back.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 25 to 9. We're live across the United Kingdom on the home of Common Sense. It's your views on the day's news that matter. Michael, good morning.
Mike in Cheshire here. Successive governments have looked down their noses at us. They've sat on their high horses and held their nose at what the British public actually want. And they've ignored us time and time again. Completely ignored us, as if we're insignificant. Well, what do you think happens when people feel that way, that they're being left behind, that no one's listening to them? Will it take a march on London by 1 million people to physically throw all these politicians out of Parliament and start again? Because that's the way it's going to happen. It's going to lead to that if they don't start listening to what the public wants. Anyway, have a good morning.
Well, we're not having too good a morning. Let's go quickly to Christian Drogan from Watchman UK, who's been out and about amongst the chaos in Belfast. Christian, good morning.
Morning, JK.
Second night last night of unrest. More rioters in hoods clashing with the police near a hotel housing migrants, water cannons, bricks and whatever. I've made the point from the first moment yesterday and will continue to do so. I don't condone it because what happens is that rather negates the message, which is that none of our political leaders will tell us a plan to get rid of illegal migration. Just give me some idea of what you saw last night, pal, please.
I mean, there were cars, there were vans, and even a house was, it was an unlived-in sort of bungalow, but yeah, it was boarded up, but it was set on fire, and yeah, it was blazing. The van was petrol bombed. It was rolled down the hill towards the police, and the water cannon was out, and it was all pretty crazy, to be honest, and it was highly dangerous. The sort of like people within the protest crowd, they were taking phones off people, and if you were caught filming, your phone was getting snatched off you and thrown in the fire. I saw that happen with my own eyes. It was quite a dangerous situation to be in, to be honest.
Febrile.
Yeah, but I have to.
What about the innocents? What about the people, the good people of Belfast who don't like what they naturally saw with that heathen the other day? How do they feel about these thugs?
Yeah, so there are only a small amount of the big crowds who are actually causing that trouble. As much as it sort of it looks a spectacle, it doesn't take too many people to sort of throw a few rocks, knock a couple of walls down. You know, a handful of people out of a big crowd can do a lot of damage. So it's worth noting that a lot of the crowd was actually quite, it was just there peacefully. Now, there were some people there who obviously had very bad intent. You know, block paved driveways were being ripped up for bricks.
It just doesn't help anybody, does it?
No, not at all.
And that's my point. You know, we I mean, I've said it all along. I'm not going to shy away from the fact that I understand the frustration, the boiling, simmering frustration, but I'm also not going to hide away from saying that, as Nigel said earlier, Sarah said, everybody with a brain cell said on this show, that actually it does nobody any damn favours for that to be the way we go forward. Listen, loads online from you, Christian, which is great. I've got a small clip I'd like to play. Have you got the clip, ladies and gentlemen? Let's just play this clip from Christian last night in Belfast.
We are in the mix here. We are in the mix. We're getting water cannons, fanning the flames. Look at that. Smoke's blowing the smoke down.
Watchman UK, more of that online. Christian Drogan, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Keep us updated. He's done a great job. 22 minutes to 9 o'clock still to come this hour. Kinsey Schofield's in the United Kingdom. All things royal. 0344 499 1000. Jez, great show. I fear that a military coup is on the cards. Don't be ridiculous. Really? Easy way for Starmer to stop the rioting. Stop gaslighting us and call a bloody general election. Margaret in Birmingham. Dean and the team? You're getting a mention after 4 days? The man that failed to get on Towie. Thanks for another great show. Yesterday's show should win an award. I've never... Actually, I did win Television Presenter of the Year for 6 years. Obviously, only on TV shows. Rob's voice note, the best ever. Karen's last week, brilliant. Forget the rest, talk is the best. That might be an idea for an advertising slogan, but we haven't got any budget. Graham's in Huddersfield. We need action from our government. Brian in Aberdeenshire. Great show, Jez, on a separate note. I think Blexley should be at the very top of the police force, and they would have to answer to him. A great example of a fair, proper, honest policing cop. Jez says, Francis, it's sad that Wayne Broadhurst seems to have been forgotten. He was walking his dog in Uxbridge when an Afghani stabbed him to death. Please mention him. Absolutely, I will. I'll also say a very good morning to Lady in Red.
Hi, Jeremy. How are you?
Is it red or is it sort of orange?
I don't know, actually.
Do you care?
Whoever's watching, be the judge.
How are you?
Good. I'm great. It's interesting to mention Wayne Broadhurst. Obviously, we can't talk deeply about it because it's still an open case, but he was murdered by someone living in a HMO while he was walking his dog. That's what we can say. And I'm actually talking to some people at the moment who know him. And once that case comes to a conclusion, we will have an exclusive on that channel with his wife. So you'll be hearing from that probably in a couple of months.
I thought you were excellent. Yeah, that sounded really condescending. I thought you were excellent yesterday when we were talking about how, and Nigel touched upon it about an hour ago, about how we're being gaslit by a Prime Minister and a government that refuses to acknowledge. I mean, have you seen the clip with Kevin and Nuala? Have you seen this?
No.
Let's just play this again. It's such a great clip. There's a lady on Drive Time with Kev yesterday from the Alliance Party who said, and I quote, "Those riots are absolutely nothing to do with migration problems." Have a watch, have a listen.
What is your feeling about what should be done about this? Because there is this kind of weird backdoor route into the UK via the border.
I have to interrupt you there because I actually don't believe that the trigger for this has been the migrant crisis. I think the trigger for this is people using it.
You think they just did it for no reason whatsoever? You think they rioted last night for no reason?
I think the people are using this as an opportunity.
They didn't riot for no reason.
They are using this as an opportunity.
Well, hang on, Nuala, they did not riot for no reason.
There have been plenty of people who've come.
So why did they riot? Why did they take to the streets last night?
There have been plenty of.
Why did they? Can you answer that question? Why did they take to the streets last night then?
They took to the streets last night because they were thugs who wanted to engage in violence.
What about the peaceful protesters? There were peaceful protesters all over Northern Ireland as well.
People have a perfectly right. They have a right, as they always should, to protest.
Yes,
but people
exactly.
do not have a right to illegally protest. But there is always going to be a difference of opinion when it does come to whether it's a legal migrant or an illegal migrant, whether it's a person who has come here to seek refuge or whether it's someone who's come here to work.
So, Marigo, what chance have we got when elected politicians will try and gaslight us into thinking that the troubles in Belfast that we don't condone are nothing whatsoever to do with illegal migration?
I mean, in that clip, it's astonishing. It's shocking. She's literally calling for people to side with the illegal migrant in this situation and empathise with him and his migration status. Well, no, thank you. Honestly, it's so interesting how and this is why I am so upset about the fact that it did get violent in Belfast, and it has, because they know that they can use this to now weaponize everything and change the discourse into talking about the protests, the violence.
Exactly what Starmer did yesterday. Did not talk about the root cause, did not talk about the man who thought it was going to try and behead somebody, talked about the violence.
Exactly.
It negates the message.
Absolutely. And, you know, now we're seeing social media be blamed. Apparently social media is the villain in this whole situation.
Why is that?
Because apparently there's been a lot of misinformation spread. Well, I don't know, because that video that we saw on Tuesday morning seemed quite real to me.
Yeah,
it wasn't AI, it wasn't manufactured, and this is all off a real video, something that really happened. Thank God Stephen Ogilvie, who was the victim, is now in stable condition, we're hearing. He is not on death's door like we thought he would be yesterday. I mean, I don't know if the pictures that I saw online are verified, but what I did see is someone who's been absolutely slashed across the face multiple times in one of the most horrendous and insane attacks.
They took one of his eyes out. He's blind in one eye.
Yes, and he was disabled. We're hearing that he was also a schizophrenic as well. This was a really, really vulnerable man that was attacked on the street. So we do need to take time to think about him and how his family is feeling. But yeah, social media being the villain. I tell you what you'll now see after this, a crackdown on free speech, a crackdown on social media, them trying to censor things, them trying to paint everyone as the horrible, horrible far right and all that. And there absolutely is the far right involved in this, and I condemn them. But there's also, as you always say, you know, regular people that are concerned, and that's the issue. So, yes, they're now going to use this to suppress us.
Just to also give my award for biggest plank, excuse the pun, Kev, of the week by a mile. I could not believe this. Do you know who Michelle O'Neill is?
Yes, I do.
First Minister of Ireland from Sinn Féin, affiliated to the IRA, who used to blow up people just for laughs. She said, this disorder on the streets is an utter disgrace. Go look in the mirror, love.
She also, when questioned by another news channel, which was a right-wing news channel, about how she feels about, you know, because she's the one who's presided over the porous border between Northern Ireland and Ireland. She's the one who's had a very open to migrants policy. She said, fake news, stop giving your monologue to me. I don't want to hear it today. Today's not about immigration. The discussion should not be centred around that. I mean, the tone-deaf nature of some of these politicians.
Absolutely. And also just a new poll suggesting overnight that 1 in 3 Britons believe police treat ethnic minorities more favourably than white people. We wouldn't have been able to say that a few years ago. That would have been racist. But that poll is proving it's a fact. No wonder people are hacked off.
So we're hearing it from the inside. Alison Pearson of Telegraph fame actually had an email that was sent to her from Southampton Police, the same police that dealt with the Henry Novak case, and they said, or this sergeant said, that they are told that they must basically show up to a scene and deal with different ethnic minorities differently.
And they tried telling me that Farage is wrong to say there's two-tier policing or that he's trying to incite violence. No, he's reporting on what's happening. Final thing, you wonderful lady, please be on every day. Immigration officers. Now, if you break into my country, not that you are because you're Australian, you're here legally. If you come here illegally and you're being interviewed by an immigration border force official, Samara, if that official has got anything to do with the United Kingdom, maybe a badge or a tie or a pair of socks, that could intimidate the illegal migrant and will get you in trouble and you might lose your job. That's where we live.
This story was ludicrous, wasn't it, JK? I mean, bloody hell. Yeah, it's this is what really enrages people. This crackdown on the small things, that's what then leads to much bigger issues. And the government needs to take a hard look at itself. We need to stop polarising the flag. We need to actually bring back a little bit of pride. And that's a good thing because everyone can then get under the banner of Britain First. I think Australia has done it quite well. And okay, JK?
Carry on.
You okay?
Jeremy can't die.
America, have you got a pin on? Are you intimidated by it? Look, the thing is, America actually does immigration really well as well. I know people will think that maybe I'm, but they know what they are. They have Team America.
Australia does it well.
Australia also has that. Get under Team Britain and you're fine to be here. We better go to break because Jeremy's about to cark it.
Very much indeed. Mark's next.
Good morning to you. This is Talk the Home of Common Sense with me, Julia Hartley-Brewer. Just breaking news in the last couple of moments. Extraordinary news. Not just that the police have arrived at the Sandringham estate where Prince Andrew, as was now Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, is currently living since being thrown out of the Windsor estate. The police have arrested Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. It's an extraordinary revelation. And certainly what's been contained in the Epstein files was released in the last few weeks. It's his 66th birthday today. What a birthday present that is.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very good morning. Welcome along. It's 11 minutes to 9. We're live across the United Kingdom. Now, after 2.5 days of talking only about the horrors of Belfast, I'm taking 10 minutes out because my favourite lady has flown to England. I'm not going to con you into believing that it's to see me, because she's got more male attention than anybody in the history of the world. The wonderfully supreme Kinsey Schofield. Hello.
So good to see you, JK.
You look so well, mate. Everything okay?
Yeah, everything's great.
You left California. How's it over there? It says, is it as mad as this place? Because this place is just, oh,
no,
mate.
I mean, it is. I did have some people that work in government say to me, reach out to your contacts there and make sure it's safe before you get on an airplane.
They said that to you about the United Kingdom in America?
Yes. Some American law enforcement said, are you sure it's safe? You reach out to some of your contacts, because
What do Americans genuinely? What do Americans think when they look at the United Kingdom? Obviously, we'll talk Roz, but I mean, essentially, in the last 3 days, we've been debating the fact that we allow people into this country who think it's okay to try and behead somebody in broad daylight. And you have a president who, love him or loathe him, said, I'm going to do something about illegal migration, and he damn well did do something about it.
Right, but we also had several presidents that didn't. Under Joe Biden, over President Obama, I know he's fondly remembered, but President Obama also let some pretty sinister people cross our borders. So I do think that we have a better handle on it. I think that the UK needs to be more aggressive, less talking about it, and, you know, hurting some feelings. You're going to hurt some feelings.
Well, I think it's a really salient point, because we don't seem to have any politicians who have gone, I'm going to be unpopular. 50% of the population, a bit like Trump, are going to think I'm the devil incarnate, and 50% are going to think I'm the Lord God Almighty, right? That's the way it is.
Right. I mean, my cabbies here have been...
My cabbies here?
Have been so precious, and they're, you know, I've had several say, we need Nigel Farage. I've had several say, I don't know if Nigel Farage is the answer, but we just need an alternative.
Has anybody said they need Jeremy Kyle at all to you in the cab?
Oh, they all love Jeremy. I jumped in one the other day and they were listening to you, so yes, they love
I'm
JK.
only making it up.
They love JK.
Talk to me about royal things, because I haven't spoken about royals for ages. I literally haven't. What...
Well, we saw Prince William this week. He looked very handsome as always. London Tech Week, and he was discussing.
Is he your sort of man, Prince William? And if he and Kate finished, could you see Miss Schofield?
You always do this. I would never do anything to violate.
If she was cast aside, would you become the next queen?
Catherine. I would never do anything to hurt Catherine, but I think that Prince William is quite a stallion. Absolutely.
No, you see, you can't use that in England. Do you know what that means in England?
A stud.
Oh, right, you do know what it means. You don't care. Wait, so you're talking about him in a physical way.
He's a very handsome man.
He's bald.
I don't
If he was the King of England, next King of England, you wouldn't give him a second look. Is Dean not better looking than...
Dean is very handsome, I will say that.
He failed to get into... She's lying, I've made her say that. He failed to get into Towie in The Only Way is Essex. That's why he ended up here.
Oh, my gosh.
But no, Prince William, talk to me. Come on.
He was at London Tech Week, and what I love about him is he always puts his money where his mouth is. He doesn't just complain about the current circumstances. He has a solution, so he was talking to them about how he wants to use some of these technology companies to work with people's banks. He said that there has to be patterns before you go homeless. There have to be patterns that banks or technology could recognize, that, you know, and they could introduce people to solutions before the issue happens of homelessness.
He does have... Both of them do. We both know we're big fans, but they both have, to me, the common touch, which is sadly lacking now. Charles has it to a degree, but so many don't. And I think they come across as, you know, oh, hold on, Richard, wow, Kinsey looks amazing. She looks like an all-American Ralph Lauren ad.
Oh my gosh, call me.
Betty, that was from. No,
That's so
it's
sweet.
not. It's Rich. It's Richard. So they are. Richard, call her. They
Well,
are.
I will say I
03444
met Queen Camilla this week.
You met Queen Camilla?
And I curtsied. I did a very sweet, cute
Oh, stand up and show me what you did.
I'm not gonna
you've got to do it. No, you've got to do it.
The cameras are not prepared for
This is pure Meghan Markle. This will
No.
put Meghan Markle when she did that pathetic. Show how you curtsy to the Queen. She's brilliant at this. The camera's not very good, but just show us. Your Majesty. Very good.
And so what you were joking about that being from a female, I'm pretty sure I flirted with Queen Camilla on accident.
Sorry, you flirted with... This interview's gone completely wrong now. Oh, well, you'll be fine in Britain where identity politics has taken over normality, love.
We were looking, I was at the Grenadier Guards. They did an event to show King Charles the new colours. It's actually a new flag, which represents their devotion and their dedication to King Charles and the monarchy. And so Queen Camilla was there as well, and she asked if I enjoyed the program, enjoyed the Guards.
How did you get introduced to this?
My friend Miranda, who loves you. You played a voice note from her the other day.
Did I?
Yes, you did.
Can you imagine, Charles, this is a friend of mine from America. Kinsey, lovely, Ralph Lauren model. Kins, how are you? Lovely, ooh, lovely.
But Queen Camilla asked if I enjoyed it, and I said, I enjoyed seeing you.
Did you?
Yes.
And then you thought, God, I sound like an absolute idiot, don't
Well, I did say Queen Camilla. You know, I should have said Your Majesty. I'm sorry.
I was very critical of her 20 years ago, when all that was going on.
Yes.
I think she's incredible. What she's done has stood by her side, got her head down, done an awful lot of good work about the abuse of women, the book clubs and stuff like that, and I think she deserves huge respect.
Yes.
Kinsey, you need to be careful, says Steve. You've landed in England. You said we should be more aggressive. That could get you arrested by the police as you leave the building and be called a far-right racist thug.
Don't get me... I had Sky News Australia ask me about Prime Minister Keir Starmer this morning, and they asked me about something that the Osbornes had said. And I said, truly, I'm uncomfortable saying anything critical of Keir Starmer because it's my understanding that he retaliates, and I'm currently in his country, and so I'd rather not go there.
Well, listen, I don't mind if he retaliates. I think he's an absolute numpty and should be deselected quicker.
He won't let me back in, or he won't let me out.
No, don't worry. I'm in charge of that. You'll absolutely be fine. Don't worry about it. There's a story about Andrew Mountbatten Windsor that I'm sort of loath to do.
Uh-oh.
Gloves?
No.
Flying gloves worn by Andrew Mountbatten. This is how crap his life is. Thoroughly deserved, by the way. There was an auction, and somebody put forward some gloves that he used to fly his plane in the Falklands War and fight for this country. It received no bids.
Oof.
That's not great.
It's not great. That does surprise me a little bit because I come from America and infamy sells, right?
Yeah.
So I am a little bit surprised by that a weird, like, museum, a morbid museum wouldn't purchase that.
I've got a female friend, and it doesn't sound... No, Victoria knows it. It's not like that.
Okay.
And she used to be an air hostess, and she would sell her shoes and her tights on... Is that what you call them in America?
Yeah.
Online.
Yes.
There are people that buy these things, but nobody apparently wants Andrew Mountbatten Windsor's gloves.
Used gloves. No,
Do you know anything about the face bruise? What was that? Who punched him?
I don't know what happened there. I mean, obviously, I have very little sympathy for him.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, especially with these new developments about rent and the daughters receiving free rent from...
I think they're in trouble, mate.
I don't think it's a good look. But, you know, I say that. It's my understanding we're going to see the girls at Ascot.
Did you see them at the wedding of...
We saw them at the wedding.
Peter Phillips and Harriet, the NHS nurse. Was that confected or was that natural? Because they were kissing William and right at the front.
I think William loves his cousins.
Do
I think
you?
his cousins are making his job uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I think he loves the little girls he grew up with. I talked to Darren McGrady, the Queen's chef and Diana's chef, Princess Diana's chef and the late Queen's chef, and he told me that there was like a Easter where little Prince William bit the head off of an Easter bunny, and the girls were so traumatized that he had to decapitation. He had to remake the head on the Easter bunny. You know, those are memories. You love your cousins.
But I don't think you should ever... I don't think you should ever we should never forget that I think there's a core of steel inside that boy.
I agree.
I think he will do everything in his grandmother's memory to get the monarchy back to where he hopes it can be.
Agree. I just don't think that he's a monster. I think that as a person, he loves his cousins. As a professional, they've made his life difficult, and he's going to distance himself professionally.
So you're over here for how long? What are you doing? You're doing, obviously, Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered. You can find it on YouTube. Please subscribe right now with the button. But oh no, that's the wrong one. No?
No, that's fine. That's great.
Yeah.
We love buttons.
Never invites me on. I have to ask to be on the show.
Come back and see me. I'm excited for Trooping the Colour this weekend.
Yes.
The King's Birthday Parade. I'm
You're
excited.
going to Windsor on Monday?
Well, I'll be there for Order of the Garter, which I might see Prince William. So
if my old man had been alive, he'd have been at the Order of the Garter every year.
Yeah,
but he's not because he's dead.
I know.
So
you do bring that up occasionally, but I still
orphan.
love him. I love his stories.
Well, he'd have loved you, is all I'm trying to say. They used to phone me from the care home and I go, what has he done now? He's chasing some woman through the kitchen with a cigarette in one hand and a gin in the other. It's so nice to see you. I miss you. You're brilliant, and please check it out. Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered online. Everything you need raw. She is a superstar. We love her. She's the only American I know that speaks sense. Thank you, darling.
Thank you.
We'll see you very soon. Coming next, Reform UK's mayoral candidate in London, Layla Cunningham, is next on Talk Breakfast.
You know, you have to remember that Peter Murrell has been the chief executive of the SNP for nigh on a quarter of a century. He's been with Nicola Sturgeon since 2003. She said that she didn't have access to his personal records. They had separate bank accounts, so we can take, well, what you want from all of that. The list that you gave is unbelievable. 124,000 in a camper van, Fortnum and Mason's picnic hampers, a couple of lawnmowers, one for 2,000 quid, 3 dynamic Savile umbrellas, £970. The list goes. A wine coaster. I needed to look up what a wine coaster was. 3,500 quid. So the list goes on.
When you're talking about crimes as vicious as rape, serial murder, really depraved crimes, it's quite clear to me that the usual considerations around whether you should be lenient because of this context, whether or not there should be more room for rehabilitation in that context, just don't apply. From the simple commonsensical basis that if someone is capable of doing that, they're a threat to society.
But this is the thing,
I don't want to take that risk.
If these kids genuinely, and they are kids, everyone involved's a kid. I mean, it's just absolute travesty. If they don't know that all of these things are wrong, then by definition, we need them off the street. Yeah.
So there's now a label for children who skip school. Parents can't sort it out. In the old days, I used to think that skipping school was against the law. And parents used to be taken to court. Well, no longer anymore. They found a label now, Ian, which allows them to sit at home. Again, I keep saying, on tablets, wasting their time.
Wow.
Universities. Let's get everyone going to university. Well, I think a fundamental job of education is to prepare children for the society they're going to live in a positive way, i.e. prepare them for a job. You've got the welfare state, I've already said, wonderful thing, isn't it? But a safety net, not a way of life.
Henry Novak's last words were, "I can't breathe," as he was handcuffed, having been stabbed not only in the front but in the back as well, Okay, he stabbed him in the chest twice, stabbed him in the face once, stabbed him in the back of the leg twice. I mean, what an attack. Let's wait and see what sentence this vile piece of garbage gets. Of course, none of it of which will bring back dear Henry. May his soul rest in peace.
It's just so shocking, Pete, I mean, this is... We're so used to criticising the police for mistakes. This is the worst one I've ever come across.
But it's where you've got with this woke, fluffy, liberal, progressive nonsense about anti-racism.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back or welcome along. Thank you so much indeed to Kinsey Schofield. It's brilliant. Everything royal you need to know. Kinsey Schofield, unfiltered in connection with News UK. So much you need to find out about the royal. She is your person. Welcome to the final hour of breakfast for Thursday. Listen, wherever you've been, if you've been listening all morning, thank you. If you've just tuned in, where the hell have you been? You can be involved on a call or a voice note, 0344 499 1000. Your text messages to 87222. There is only one story in town, whatever other people tell you. That is a second night of unrest in Belfast. Rioters, many hooded, clashing with police. There were bricks and bottles and water cannons were fired by the authorities. And I just want to say at this point, all of this, of course, stemming from the 30-year-old Sudanese illegal immigrant who got in to Ireland from the Republic illegally. Thought it's OK to, well, basically be seen in the middle of a street at night trying to behead an Irish national. Much tension, much frustration, a simmering anger. But, I make the point, what you see when people with hoods attack the police is not only wrong, but it doesn't do anything for what people are feeling, because what it allows is politicians like Starmer to hide behind, I find the violence abhorrent. We all do, mate, but we all want an answer and we all want to know why it's caused, or rather for you to admit why it's being caused and give us a bloody solution about how you're going to deal with it. But our politicians won't do that. Rob yesterday left us a voice note and it went viral. We ended up on Fox in America and Sky in Australia. He's given us another one today. Morning, Rob.
Morning, Jez. Rob from Old Beach. Again, on my way to work as usual. Just thought I'd like to put my 2 pence worth in about that idiot that was apologising for the terrorist in Belfast. Now, these people, a lot of these people, like him, the places where they come from. Now, they're the sort of people that will think nothing of when their daughter reaches a certain age to lay her on a rock by a river, get a sharpened piece of stone or a rusty blade and hack her genitals about. So if they'll do that to their own family, what do you think they're prepared to do to yours when they know when they come here, not only will they be forgiven by all the NGOs and the woke politicians, they'll also be defended by taxpayer-funded lawyers, and they won't get kicked out of the country and they can continue with their cushy little life. I'm sick and fed up with all these people apologising for these horrific monsters that have been set amongst us. We have got no choice in this. We've got no say in this. We just have to shut up and... Oh, mate, I tell you now, these people that have chosen to put all of these wonderful, wonderful diversity is our strength characters in our midst, they're going to reap the whirlwind, mate. What's happening in Belfast is just the beginning. I don't condone all people getting burnt out their houses and cars getting set alight and all that. That's not me. But what I am saying is people have reached that tipping point, mate. And now it's going to get a lot worse, because all you do is double down, tell us we're racist, we're far right, and we're everything under your boot. We're scum. We're second class compared to these people who are committing these atrocities. And if that's your level of thinking, you don't deserve to be anywhere near public office or anything to do with who comes and lives amongst us.
Got to say, for day two, completely agree with him. 0344 499 1000. Of course, we don't condone the violence in any way. It's counterproductive. But let's be honest, this country is on the edge. We'll say a very good morning to Reform UK's mayoral candidate in London. Love having her on. Layla Cunningham, how are you?
Hello, Jeremy. How are you?
I'm all right. Yesterday was a really interesting experience. The show was extraordinary in that I just thought, you know what, enough of that. And none of us, and I know you will be the same, none of us condone what we saw in Belfast. That is impossible and wrong and counterproductive. But I totally get, don't you, the reasons why people think, we didn't vote for this, we don't agree with this, we've tried to peacefully protest for this. No bloody politician seems to be listening to us, Layla.
Yeah, but the problem with the riots is that it allows the political class to deflect and just talk about the riots as opposed to the issue at hand. No, of course I condone it. It's terrible, and especially when you see those houses being fired. But people have had enough. I've had enough. I'm like, for God's sake, literally, how many of these incidents? How many young girls have to be raped? How many people have to be stabbed, killed by an illegal immigrant for the political class to suddenly sit and say, you know what? We have to do whatever it takes. I don't know what is the tipping point.
Well, you think back, somebody said to me yesterday, which I thought was...
for me, the tipping point was, years ago. But we've had over 40,000 illegal migrants arrive over the past 12 months.
Yeah.
You know, Eritrea, Somalia, Afghanistan, Iran, and when are we going to say enough? 40,000 potential other men, like the guy we saw in Belfast, rapists, Muslim Brotherhood terrorists, IRG. We just don't know.
And you know what? You'll get exactly what I got yesterday and what Nigel will no doubt get for being on at 8 o'clock. People will say, and they said it online about me yesterday, well, yeah, that's far right. That's racist. These people are coming from war-torn countries. Let's get this absolutely straight. If you, and I said it yesterday, and it got amazing response, because actually we should be in the business, should we not, of telling the truth. If you let unfettered men into your country, not women and children, Darren Bloody Jones, men of fighting age, who, actually, let's forget that, who come from a culture...
Think about their futures and their kids' futures.
I don't know what that is.
Get to the ballot box.
Don't know where that came from. Don't worry about that. Who come into this country, right? They have none of our values. They don't speak our language. They don't adhere to our law. In fact, so barbaric are the things that they find normal that you end up with scenarios like you did the other night in Belfast, where a man is being potentially beheaded, where in Bournemouth, where I live down by, a girl is taken onto a beach and raped by 2 migrants who've been here 3 weeks, and they're let off because apparently it would be too dangerous for them to go home. Yesterday, the 16-year-old enticed on Snapchat from our home in Somerset to Bristol by 4 Afghanis who plied her with drink and drugs and raped her. How long do we have to bring up Lee Rigby, the Manchester Arena bombings, Henry Novak, the Southport murders, all of it? And no government, it seems, will have the balls to tell us why it's happening or how they're going to stop it. And that is why people, I agree with you entirely, that is why people are so frustrated.
I mean, because, and what's really fascinating is that the Westminster bubble heard Nigel after Novak say the word rage, and they were horrified. You know, the political class responded by literally having a national debate about that one word.
Instead of a national debate about two-tier policing and how there are too many illegal migrants in our country.
Yeah, you know, they're literally having a completely different conversation to the country.
Why?
You know,
Why?
Say, oh, the House is united in condemnation of Nigel's reaction. No, that's the problem. They're united, but not people. They treat public anger as something that's created by politicians somehow. But people are so angry, Jeremy. And you know what was interesting yesterday? I think he's the head of like some terrorist government body or something, anti-terrorist, and he finally said what we've been saying for years, right? That the men coming in are a national security risk.
Yeah, Jonathan Hall, absolutely.
Jonathan Hall, sorry. And I was thinking, now that he said it, right, the expert or someone from government, it's no longer racist to say it. You know,
absolutely, and also there's that
legitimized that argument, whereas the whole public saying it, we're all divisive and you can't say it. And that's what annoys people, is that we have to be told how to think. We have to be given permission to be angry or notice what we see with our very own eyes.
It's a really interesting point that you make, actually, and I'm really glad nobody's made that at all, which is that when Nigel said what he said, there was then a national debate in the mainstream media and in a lot of the press saying, this is outrageous, this isn't right, this isn't fair. A survey overnight, an opinion poll, says that 1 in 3 Britons now believe that police treat ethnic minorities more favourably than white people. So if your job as a politician is to have your finger on the pulse of what's happening, then I would suggest that Farage was spot on last week. Then, of course, the Tories have also said that. But no action from our government. No sort of...
You know what the action is, Jeremy? Have you seen the latest action?
Oh, God, go on.
Oh, no, they don't want to fix the boats. They don't want to stop the boats or stop crime or add more police. No. Now they are... So remember when the online safety bill came out? I was siding with... When I said it is not about children, it is about censorship. I was accused by Labour and Conservatives of siding with children. Do you remember when Jeremy Kyle said Nigel is siding with Jimmy Savile-type people?
You just said Jeremy Kyle.
Oh, sorry. What's his name? Peter Kyle.
Oh, God, no! I've been called a Labour minister. Oh,
sorry.
God.
Well, now they're saying that they are going to use the online safety bill to censor content during civil unrest. We warned them.
I mean...
That civil unrest, I would say, is when I need to know all the information, because I know the mainstream media is not reporting it. But that's what they're going to use the online safety bill. That is how they're reacting. They're not trying to fix it. They're reacting so we don't get any information and we can't speak to each other.
It's so, you know, some of the people that phone this show and this station in their entirety will talk, Layla, about how, you know, they're a bit conspiratorial and they'll say the government wants this unrest so they can instigate even greater controls over us. That there's this undocumented plan, and I mean I can't even give that brain space because that doesn't sit in my head at all. What I know is what I want is what I think a majority of people want in this country is honesty, common sense, acceptance of, you know, you stand up and say it as it is. There'll be things that work right and things that don't, not to cloud the issue. I still maintain that with Southport it suited his narrative, Starmer, to keep quiet that it wasn't an illegal migrant so he could crack down and call everybody far right. But those excuses, those days, I think they're gone. I think we're past politicians just saying, oh, far right, they're thugs, just get rid of them all. I think there are... I mean, this wasn't documented, but it should have been. There were thousands who turned up in Belfast, not last night, the night before, who were peacefully protesting, as they did in Epping. The wonderful pink ladies saying, our daughters are in danger here. We're not racist, we're not far right, we're just concerned mothers. We're concerned villagers. What's wrong with that? Nothing.
Yeah, I mean, listen... and he always uses the full force of the law against protesters. I don't see him using the full force of the law against every other crime that's committed. But on a fundamental level, I'm really angry because right now we cannot tell how many extremists we have on our streets, right? We can't. The government can't tell you who's entering the country. They can't even control who enters our country. And so as a result, there is no way that this government can control the safety of the people already here. You can't, because a country that doesn't know who's coming in, we don't know what risks...
Isn't that the first premise of a government, to protect its people?
So for me, it's an illegitimate government.
Yeah.
If the first duty of any government is to keep us safe, and they have, and this and the previous, they have fundamentally failed.
If I'm speaking out of turn, stop me. You've got a personal story, haven't you? Are you prepared to share that as to why you're so frightened about what's happening, certainly on the streets of London?
Well, yeah, I mean, my son was a victim of knife crime, and my other son was, and there was no police, and that's potentially one of the reasons why I came into politics. But...
Well, they were threatened with knives.
Well, the guy had a knife and went up to him in Sainsbury's and said, give me your phone, and showed him the knife and forced him to walk with him for 15 minutes until, I kidnapped him really, until the phone cleared. And my son said, Mum, I thought he was going to bundle me up in the boot of a car and kill me. And by the way, this happened under my house. And the guy was local. That's the scary thing. It wasn't, you know...
Was he caught?
He was caught, and what happens is he's caught and he pleads not guilty because, and I say this to every victim, victims don't tend to turn up because they're scared, they don't want to relive it. My son did not want to go to that trial. He really didn't. There was another time where they were targeted with masked men, then the police did nothing, I had to do everything. But this is another time, and I had to force him to go to the courts, and he didn't want to go, but if he didn't go, that guy would have gotten off. And I can see why victims don't want to go, especially children. But the whole case relies on the live account of the victim.
When you look at, you know, a lot of people will say, oh, you know, it'd be nice to tune in and get something different. I know the feeling, but we're talking about what's going on the streets of our country in its entirety, whether it's rioting in Belfast or your story there. I know you're standing to be the mayor.
My daughter was sexually approached by someone in Starbucks, again under my house, a foreign guy, you know, sexually, she was studying for her exam, she was sexually approached, and it's constant, Jeremy. It's I'm lucky to have so many teenagers, but you know, it's a constant onslaught of random...
How do you clear that up? It's a genuine question. If you became the mayor of London, how do you clear that up?
I held him down until the police came. But, you know, luckily my kids are street smart just from having to grow up with this. But that's why I feel like if you do the right thing, you pay your taxes, you go to work, the system crushes you.
Say it every day.
They don't let you get away with anything. If you're a criminal, you get away with it. And that's what frustrates people. It's a warped system.
It's not. Nigel used a phrase I use every day. It's not fair. It doesn't seem balanced. It doesn't seem fair. It doesn't seem just. It doesn't seem right. If you're listening to this and maybe you're on the trip from work to whatever you're doing, I speak to people every day, Layla, who will say, I've always lived my life correctly, and I'm beginning to wonder why. I've sort of always tried to do the right thing. So then, of course, it spills over into what we're seeing in Belfast. None of us condone that, and it's led by the moronic minority who do nothing for the bigger issue. But it then masks and hides the fact that frustration is palpable. And if you have, as I said at the beginning, voted against immigration and spent years not believing it's going to be anything other than destructive, you feel like you're not being listened to, right?
100%. I mean, while this was all going on, while my kids were being targeted by gangs in balaclavas, I remember I got like an Amazon package and I put it in a public bin. I got a letter to be prosecuted by the council for using, Jesus. I was like, that's what I mean. It crushes you.
Where's the well, you'll love today's story then, which I'm sure you've heard.
Right.
Just imagine you are an illegal migrant, right? Okay, and you break into this country, and I'm your Border Force immigration official, and you come up to my desk and you're trying to work out how to con me. According to government sources, if I am wearing a Union Jack badge, tie or socks, as Nigel's wearing today, that might intimidate you and you could sue me and we'll pay for the lawyer. What a load of... honestly, mate, I don't get it.
I don't understand. I don't get it either. I really... In one hand, you could be really kind and say we are such a tolerant and kind country.
Soft.
But it's and you can admire that, it's at the detriment of us, it's destroying the country. It really is destroying the fundamental fabric of our country, because I've always known Britain to be a very tolerant and accepting country, but right now you feel that being tolerant and accepting is almost like national suicide.
Well, it's interesting what you say about tolerant and accepting and morally the leader and all that. That's what people are fed up with, Layla. They're fed up. They feel that for years of being not forced, but actually from birth doing the right thing, believing in the right things, behaving in the right way, has got us where? To a situation where illegals get treated better than we do. And to be fair, several of us have been saying this for 2 or 3 years and have been branded everything you could be branded. But now people are saying maybe that's truthful. Really appreciate it. Just also very quickly, I should ask you, I tried to ask you, that terrible story about your kids, how do you cure that if you ever became London Mayor?
Visible policing. I don't see one police officer where I live. I mean, I have a very high crime rate where I live. Visible policing, police stations. I've actually spoken to a lot of people that own shops, empty shops, to have pop-up police stations, especially if there's a spate of crime happening. We don't have any of that. Also, there's got to be a zero tolerance approach. So I think people don't know there is mandatory sentencing for the second time. That's also national legislation. For the second time you get caught with a knife. But I've stood in court there where you're meant to get 6 months, but it's always suspended.
Sorry, I could never be London Mayor. I would increase stop and search dramatically, and if you're found with a knife, I'd put you in jail for 5 years, and you'd serve all 5 years, because I'd build more prisons, because the message would become very clear. There's no amnesty, there's no
Jeremy,
apology.
You know what's interesting? You mentioned stop and search, but it was Theresa May who drastically
Absolutely, and Bad Night yesterday saying they should re-increase it. Absolutely, I completely get you.
There is a direct correlation between a reduction in stop and search and an increase in knife crime. Massive correlation, and it's a fundamental betrayal, because the injustice is not being searched. The injustice is being stabbed when it could have been stopped.
Completely agree. Great to have you on. Bless you. This lady's got been on the school run and still managed to do this. You're an amazing lady. Thank you so much indeed. Layla Cunningham on Talk Breakfast 9:22. We're live across the UK. Julia from 10, Ian Collins from 1. And people are asking me by demand to play that, Kevin. I'm going to do it, right? I'm going to do it again, because I was just driving yesterday and I put Kev on, and he was talking... I have to keep playing this because it just sends me through the roof. Kevin O'Sullivan on Drive yesterday had Nuala McAllister. She's from the Alliance Party in Ireland. And believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, she did not see any correlation between the disturbances in Belfast and illegal migration. Take it away, Kev.
What is your feeling about what should be done about this? Because there is this kind of weird backdoor route into the UK via the border.
I have to interrupt you there because I actually don't believe that the trigger for this has been the migrant crisis. I think the trigger for this is people
You
using
think they
it
just did it for no
as an
reason whatsoever?
opportunity.
You think they rioted last night for no reason?
I think the people
Well, come
are
on,
using this as an
Nuala, they didn't
opportunity.
riot for no
They are
reason.
using this as an opportunity.
Well, hang
to
on,
escalate
Nuala,
their
they
own
did not
far-right
riot for
agenda.
no reason.
There have been plenty of people who've come on.
So why did they riot? Why did they take to the streets last night?
There have been plenty of.
Why did they? Can you answer that question? Why did they take to the streets last night then?
They took to the streets last night because they were thugs who wanted to engage in violence.
What about the peaceful protesters? There were peaceful protesters all over Northern Ireland as well.
People have a perfectly right. They have a right, as they always should, to protest.
Yes,
but people
exactly.
do not have a right to illegally protest. But there is always going to be a difference of opinion when it does come to whether it's a legal migrant or an illegal migrant, whether it's a person who has come here to seek refuge or whether it's someone who's come here to work.
Hiya, gentlemen. Mark from Manchester. People need to get wise to this. Going out, protesting, rioting, whatever you want to call it. The only way to protest these days is to protest at the ballot box. All these young boys and girls who don't want this happening and got to think about their futures and their kids' futures need to get to the ballot box and vote. Because this is what the lefties do. They all get to the ballot box and they all vote because they all don't want the right in. So don't go out there protesting. Use your silent protest. Silent protest is at the ballot box.
I think the trigger for this is people
You
using
think they just did it for no reason whatsoever? You think they rioted last night for no reason?
They took to the streets last night because they were thugs who wanted to engage in violence.
What about the peaceful protesters? There were peaceful protesters all over Northern Ireland as well.
They have a right, as they always should, to protest, but there is always going to be a difference of opinion when it does come to whether it's a legal migrant or an illegal migrant, whether it's a person who has come here to seek refuge or whether it's someone who's come here to work.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 9:26. What a week it's been. Thank you to Layla Cunningham. Morning, Jez. Great show. How can the UK-England badge be intimidating to migrants when they're looking to claim asylum in this country? If it's that intimidating, why don't you bugger off and go somewhere that's less intimidating, or am I missing the point? No, Nick in Harrow, you are not missing the point. That is absolutely spot on correct. Matt's in Grimsby. Get Rob of the voice note fame on the show. We'll do our best to Jez. If young Henry Novak or the poor guy in Northern Ireland have been politicians or the sons or fathers of politicians, especially a senior figure in the party, do we think this government and Starmer's response would have been the same, Paul in Fife? Absolutely not. Richie from mid-Sussex. First of all, got to say, we love Samara Gill. She's brilliant. Oh, I see. The riots in Belfast, I don't own them, but I can completely and utterly understand the frustration that builds. Morning, Jez. Right or not, what's happening in Belfast is sending a message to the government, and if nothing is done, it will come over to England and only get worse. Leanne, Jez, I think they want civil unrest unrest. They want the public kicking off so they have a reason to enforce digital ID, which we all know Starmer is desperate to get through. Interesting. Loving the show. Maybe immigration should Steve in Cheshire. Officers could wear American badges instead. The immigrants might jump back in the boat thinking they've taken the wrong turn on the channel. And Jeremy, Joanne here from Perth in Western Australia. We emigrated 21 years ago, you lucky, lucky lady. My son and his girlfriend are travelling at the moment. He was hoping to go back to Manchester to visit friends. Just phone him up and tell him not to bother. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Let's say good morning to James. Morning, Jay.
Morning, Jez. James from Liverpool here. I'm in a better mood today. I know I'm a moaning old get, but this has put me in a good mood. I can see a way out how we get rid of them, and they're not going to go by choice. This government, I mean, they're not going to go by choice. What's going to happen is we're going to need a bailout from the IMF, which will then force a vote of no confidence. And then we'll go to the electorate and the ballot box. It's very sad that I'm wishing a collapse, financial collapse on us, but I actually think a financial collapse is better than another 3 years of these absolute idiots. So that's put me in a good mood, yes, the hope of a financial collapse and a bailout to get rid of them. That's where we're at. That's how bloody bad these lot are. Have a great day, my friend. I'm glad I've been a bit cheerier today. Take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah, cheery. After the violence, you're saying let's all be skint. We're skint anyway. It's quite interesting if you ask yourself, he says, tearing up some paper at the same time. Love her or loathe her, think she's mad or she had a point. Liz Truss was ousted because there was a financial crisis. If we are going to go hand in hand, fist in hand or whatever the word is, glove in hand, to the IMF, the International Monetary Fund soon, because the woman on your screen is completely economically illiterate and is about to borrow another, what was it, 14 billion or 20-something billion this month just to pay interest on debts that we've got, then maybe I would like to ask why the authorities or the institutions that managed to push the panic button don't do it under Reeves. There's a thought. 0344 499 1000. Roger from Wales. We see the rioting against the police in Ireland, but remember the original target was the migrant hotel. Why? Because we don't want any more attacks on our families. I'm not justifying it, I'm just saying it. This lady was on yesterday. Great response. Commentator and newsreader on U105 in Belfast. Kim Kelly, good morning. How are you?
Hello there, I'm great. Well, actually, I'm not great. It's a very dreary day here in Northern Ireland. And you know what? We have witnessed some of the saddest scenes. We really have. Last night, it was terrible.
Listen, I'm not compromised in this at all because I'm not there, and I'm completely with you. And to try and give, you know, our listeners and viewers a flavour, and we thank you for your involvement. It's so annoying to me because what we're seeing with a few hundred thugs is utterly, utterly counterproductive. Hooded rioters clashing with police, bricks, water cannons, bottles. It doesn't work, right? But what frustrates the hell out of me is I can understand the frustration, but when those are the only pictures and we're playing them now, not the hundreds of thousands who turned out peacefully and want to make their point that illegal migration is such an issue, it gives our government, Kim, without any doubt, they can just gaslight us all and say they're all far-right thugs, they're all outrageous, this is no good, we're cracking down on it, which doesn't, of course, deal with what's caused the problem, what in the name of God enables somebody to sit in the middle of a Belfast street trying to behead somebody else in the middle of the street, for Christ's sake. That's what needs to be talked about.
And we're seeing this again today. All I'm seeing from politicians is you're a racist, you're a racist. So what we have then is we're just closing it down. We're not asking these people what is wrong. We're just saying you're a racist, end of story. And so this chasm, it gets bigger and bigger. The divide between the politicians and the working class people on the streets. I mean, I think something that hasn't really been talked about is the area where the stabbing took place on Monday. So it's a very working class place in Belfast. It's, you know, we're a post-Troubles society, and the Troubles were never finished in a correct manner. People were just left to it. It was like, here's a Good Friday Agreement, and now you're all fine. You know, there are people who are traumatized, generations of trauma. They've seen their parents killed. They have seen things that ordinary middle-class people in England can't even imagine. And they're now living in areas of Belfast that are really poor. They don't have jobs. They don't really have any hope. And this, this sort of attack on working classes. So now what's happening is migrants are being housed there for whatever reason. And I get why they're looking, going, well, why are they getting stuff that we're not? I mean, that is a completely normal reaction. That doesn't make them racist.
No. Well, I'm going to... Perhaps I had a couple of moments yesterday when I think the people that work on the show with me thought I was going to implode, and I had another one this morning because Michelle O'Neill, who is your First Minister, was asked a question. I'd like to play this to anybody and then I'll try not to rant too much. This is the Irish First Minister.
Northern Irish.
People were concerned, people were worried for safety, all very understandable emotions. But what we saw spill onto our streets since Monday night has been nothing short of thuggery. What we saw has been nothing short of racism. We saw youths taken to the streets, young men masked, attacking families, burning them out of their homes, attacking public property, attacking businesses. All we've seen is criminality on our streets and a real, I think, a real attempt to underline racism in our society, which I do not believe is widespread.
Kim, I want to tread very carefully. I understand how difficult it was in Ireland. She's got some bloody front, hasn't she, affiliated to the IRA? Criminality on the streets, burning houses and cars. Does anybody remember what it was like there? Because I remember watching it, or am I missing the point?
Well, that is what I grew up with, but, you know, I think that's a story for, like, another day, really. You're conflating two different points.
I know, but the point is, it's pretty rich. She used the word racism like you said. That's why I played the clip, right?
Yeah. I just think the politicians are missing the point. And I can't say why they are missing it, whether it's deliberate or whether it is more... What I sometimes think is people in working class areas are being ruled by people who have never set foot in these places. They haven't set foot in it. They don't know what West Belfast or inner city North Belfast is like. They don't know. I live in East Belfast now. It's the only place that I can afford to live because I'm a single mum. You know, I see how people live. And it's not pretty, you know what I mean? They don't have anything. There is nothing for the children, you know, and I don't want to sound like some sort of bleeding heart liberal here, but you're talking about people who really have nothing. And they're being sort of lectured at. They're being lectured by lovely middle-class people from their middle-class houses who don't have to live that life. And
therein lies the point that I was making about the unfairness of the thugs, because these working-class people who have had these illegal migrants foisted upon them are now seeing their properties destroyed and their communities tarnished, and they didn't ask. Many people have said to me in the last 2 days, all those politicians and the middle-class commentators and all those people, they don't understand because they don't have HMOs in the bloody areas they live in, and that's exactly right. But
they don't. They don't. I mean, I happen to live next door to an HMO, and it has HMO out on the door. I do. I mean, people are always shocked whenever they know where I live because obviously I work in this sort of world of media where people tend to live in the burbs, you know, when they live in nice, you know, leafy suburbs. I don't live in a leafy
I'd say suburb. That would make you more real, wouldn't it?
Well, it means that I see. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm working class. What I think about Northern Ireland, and obviously England as well too, people need to understand the privilege they come from. I understand the privilege that I come from. I come from a really privileged Northern Irish background. I had a French nanny and, you know, I went to private school. You know, I know I'm privileged, but there's far too many people who don't seem to realise their privilege. And they're talking down to working class people, and it's disgusting.
What are the people of Northern Ireland, the working class people? Are they angry at the riots? Are they angry at the immigrants? Are they angry at the government? What fuels most of their anger right now, Kim?
Not knowing what's going on, I would say. I mean, last night, for instance, basically last night's riot, they were trying to get to one of those migrant hotels, you know, these famous migrant hotels. Now, to the best of my knowledge, there actually are no migrants living in that hotel anymore. But I'm not quite sure because for some reason, we're never really told these things. And I don't know why we're not told them. So surely the most obvious thing to have told these people, actually, we don't do that anymore. There are no migrant hotels. Why can't we just come out and tell people what's actually going on? Another thing I learned today, I'm not a stupid person. I learned today that the suspect from Monday came in through Dublin, and apparently there's a way of seeking asylum where you fill in a form. This has been clarified by the Secretary of State.
And jump on a bus.
So you fill in, well, you jump on a bus and then you come here and you fill in a form and you don't meet anybody and you claim asylum. Now, listen, I get you're coming from Sudan. It's a terrible place. Yeah, we get it. But I didn't know that. I didn't know that you could fill in a form and all of a sudden be given
This is
asylum in Northern Ireland.
this common travel area, which is between the Republic and Northern Ireland, which has turned out to be a... I mean, what were the papers saying today? This is single migrant sent back after crossing the border. That's in 4 years. One.
But this is not new. This isn't new, right? I used to work in Dublin for the Sun newspaper 20 years ago, and we identified back then, it was Al-Qaeda back then, we identified back then that loads of people were coming to Dublin to work in, you know, those kind of language schools there used to be that ended up not really being language schools.
Yeah,
they were getting visas to come to those, and then they were marrying like a beautician from Letterkenny, and they were getting status, and then they were moving to the UK. So that was a big sort of thing. So this has been going on for a long time, but it kind of dips in and out of the radar. And I don't really know why we're just not told.
Well, I'll give you something that I've said for a long time, and of course you then get worryingly into the sort of conspiratorial theory, right? So do you remember? You're a journalist. You remember Southport?
Yes.
We know now that the government knew that it was not an illegal migrant, that it was a disturbed young choir boy brought up in Wales. I maintain that they said nothing. They allowed it to become febrile on social media so they could put police on the streets when there were riots, call everybody far right, round them up and put them in jail, which is right. I'm not condoning the thuggery, but if they'd been more open and honest, that wouldn't have happened. I'm totally with you. The British people, more than any time, I think, in our history, needs transparency about so many things. And certainly, when you get gaslit by politicians who say, like that Nuala McAllister, it's not migrants, oh, shut up, or Michelle O'Neill, that everybody who complains is a racist, you're not going to deal with people's anguish and fear and sense of unfairness.
And that is it. I mean, I think you've said something there. It is the fear that people feel. You know, I keep on, you know, banging on about we are a post-conflict society. You know, we haven't dealt with our own trauma in Northern Ireland. Are we the best placed then to deal with young men who come from other areas of the world who are also experiencing trauma? Given that we can't give money to our young men in Northern Ireland and our suicide rates here are sky high, we can't deal with our own mental health issues in Northern Ireland due to conflict. We can't really offer other people any help.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but I go further. I think you're far too nice. You've described that man from Sudan as suffering from trauma. Here's what I would say to you. But I think that's entirely generous. I'm just going to say this to you, right? You made the point. You didn't know he could come from the Republic. He will have passed through 7 non-war zone countries. Seven. France didn't stop him, the Republic of Ireland. And this is my real bugbear, Kim. I'm utterly convinced that we are so soft, we offer so much, that we are an absolute magnet to these people. And if you don't vet them, whether this sounds wrong or not, you are putting your population at danger if people come in with a very different mindset, skill set, belief set, whatever you want to say. And I'm surprised that more women don't jump up and down. People like that animal that came from Sudan, you want to talk about misogyny in England where men might say something wrong. These people think that women are a piece of meat, and that is a really relevant point. And these people are allowed to come in. If I was being bombed, right, Kim, the first place I got to that wasn't being bombed, I'd go, oh, this is fantastic. No, I'm going to do whatever to get to the UK, and you make your point about Ireland, you can't afford to look after your own men, but we have a government that will wipe the backside of people like that Sudanese man, and that's what fuels real anger through unfairness.
And I think it's really sad because people from Northern Ireland generally, well, some people here say they're Irish, some people say they're Northern Irish, some people say they're British. It doesn't matter. We're all one people. And we are generally very generous. Like when it comes to children in need per head, people in Northern Ireland always give the most money. We love giving money. In fact, loads of people in Northern Ireland still go to church. They still go to chapel. You know, that is the kind of system we have. We love to help people here. We would be the first to say, you know, come and live here. but it's because we're not told or asked, I think. And then it's kind of sprung upon us.
I
like,
agree.
how did they think that we weren't going to notice that a migrant hotel, now given how white people are in Northern Ireland, we are the least diverse place in the entire UK and Ireland. We really, really are, right? So how did they think that we wouldn't notice and go, what's that? Who are these people? And then all of a sudden they've been moved out of these migrant hotels. And it's not the people who are there, it's not their fault. You know, it's not their fault necessarily. So they've now been moved to these HMOs. We weren't told they've been moved to HMOs. So last night you get all these young men trying to get down to this hotel. There's nobody there. Why did somebody not just say there's nobody there?
I'm sure that you are suffering from something that I suffer from, which is common sense. It's an allergy which seems to be catching on, and it's no good because it ends up with you questioning almost everything. You've been an absolute star this week, Kim. Brilliant, and thank you so much for the time you've given us, my darling. Kim Kelly,
you, Jeremy.
Commentator and newscaster on U105 in Belfast. Do you know what my first job was, Dino? My first job was to do voiceovers for stations like that. Traffic and travel on U105 in Belfast. It's gone 9 o'clock. 9:43. Cheers.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. So many of you texting. Jez says, Gary from Larne, I'm a Northern Irish guy. Don't agree with the riots, but people have had enough aside from Farage and Badenoch. The politicians don't seem to get it. We, the people of Northern Ireland, need change. Fiona in Bristol. Jez, why happens if immigration officers are wearing Union Jack underpants when the illegal migrants come in? Well, they won't see them unless they don't wear any trousers, love. Will they, Becca? The voice note that said protest at the ballot box. Has this idiot not realised that we've done that for the last 30 years and nothing's worked? Hello to Ben. Good morning, Jez. The political class is largely broken whilst it's made up of career politicians that will only ever do what is best for themselves and never for us, the people. Peter, next it will be anyone who demonstrates, even peacefully, will be banned from wearing the Union Jack flag or carrying it, but it's OK to display the Palestinian flag every Saturday in London town. So the police, says Kay, will they have the Union Jack removed from their uniform? Dan, treated like dogs. I wouldn't treat my dog the way the government treats us, that's for sure. Jez, so many. Adam, I'm sick of hearing the far right. I'm sick of hearing people like this being labelled with mental health issues. I'm sick of spineless politicians who don't have a clue leading this country. We need change. We need someone who will take control, bring in rules to stop anyone who wants to harm a British citizen or their neighbours. Chris in Hornchurch, finally. What have people got left, Jez? We've protested, done petitions, voted against immigration for decades. We get called racist and ignored by all the main parties. How do we get the political class to listen to the people who pay their damn wages? Very quickly, been delighted and trying to get them on a week. Former Met Police officer Roy Ram. Roy, how are you?
Good morning. Very well, thank you.
Roy, the scenes over the last 2 nights in Belfast, none of us condone. Last night the police were using water cannons, there were bricks and there were bottles thrown. And I guess for many of us here, the frustration is that the few, the renter mob as I call them, are demeaning, if you like, degrading, making less important the message to the government, which is, will you please get your head out of the sand and explain to us, rather acknowledge there is this huge problem with immigration and give us a plan by which you're going to improve the situation?
Yeah, look, I don't disagree with anything you just said. I think, first of all, I'd like to say my sympathy is with the police officers for the police service of Northern Ireland who are in the middle of this and being injured. You know, the PSNI has done an extraordinary job in dealing with a society that was riven by sectarianism, and there they are again facing the kind of violence that we thought we wouldn't see again in Northern Ireland. And I think it emanates from, frankly, a policy vacuum. I think we've got successive governments that have ignored what what people are saying, what their fears are about immigration and the level of it. And what you're seeing now is disenfranchised young men who can't get a job, and they perceive it to be as a result of immigration. And you have politicians whose solution seems to be solely 2 words: please keep calm. And that's not a policy. That's an abrogation of their responsibility.
And I think that's it. And we've been at pains to point out that nobody condones it because, as I said, it's counterproductive. But I understand where it comes from. You heard that text just then. We've campaigned, we've marched, we've voted, we've done this, we've done that. And there seems to be this this mental block, this blindness to a situation that we all know is happening. But, you know, I guess as we draw to a close for my week, I am slightly sustained by the fact of something I said earlier. You know, 10 years ago, Roy, you couldn't have mentioned the word racism in any which immigration because you'd be called a racist.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's very important that governments, whoever they are, wherever they are, understand that the people are no longer going to just accept your platitudes. There's got to be more to this. And this obsession with trying to do right by criminals, illegals, whatever you want to say, to the detriment of your indigenous population is not going to go away. And I think that I mean, God knows. I mean, I'd have thought our prime... And where's our Home Secretary? I haven't heard from her. It's Thursday, for God's sake. I don't know whether they've got a death wish, this current government, or whether they're out of their depth, or they're just... Frankly, I think it's this one. I think they're too terrified of doing anything for fear of upsetting their voter base. I've said that for a long, long time, and I make no apology for that. But...
Well, they also seem to be completely consumed by their internal wars and their own leadership, rather than looking outside at what really concerns the public.
Yeah, and I guess if you do that, even if you've got the biggest post-war majority, if you lose the feeling... I mean, I don't know about you. All I want I don't expect my politicians to get everything right. I expect them to make mistakes. I just want them to be honest. Like the last lady said, Kim Kelly, we didn't know that there weren't any... The people didn't know that there weren't any illegal migrants in that HMO or that hotel. There's a lack of information and you know, at the end of the day, I share what you said about the PNSI. I get it. I completely and utterly get that. We've talked separately about two-tier policing this week, but I think I got accused yesterday of over-egging it online, like I give a damn about that. But I do think we all need to accept that this is might not be right, what we're seeing, in any which way. But it frightens me that this isn't going to go away unless our politicians address it correctly, Roy.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And, you know, as you were talking and you're showing those images of those streets of Northern Ireland and what Kim Kelly said, it's ordinary working class people, it's the ordinary people of Northern Ireland that are really going to suffer from this violence. And it's just simply not right. And politicians need to stop thinking about themselves and thinking about the people they represent, and they have to fill this policy vacuum with something that's meaningful and straightforward and easily understood. Again, what Kim Kelly said, people don't know what's going on. If there are policies to deal with illegal immigration or excessive legal immigration, let the public know what they are very clearly, and give these young people some hope of economic activity, of jobs that are going to give them a chance of life. But when you look at those streets that are burning in Northern Ireland, you know, hopelessness and helplessness will lead to riots.
I've got a different word for it, actually. I think it doesn't exactly... It's probably not strong enough. I just think it's complete unfairness, or I think that's what fuels so many people that do everything right, and then their frustration boils over, not this bunch of thugs, you know, the thousands that march peacefully, because they just think, why did I bother doing it right? Why did I bother staying within the law or paying my tax or getting a job or looking after my kids? Because some scumbag in the road or some tow rag who's coming from across the water, wherever that is, Sudan, Eritrea, Afghanistan, I don't care, and doesn't even respect those things that I have to respect, is getting treated better than me. I think that's absolutely it.
I think you made another very important point there about the people who are calm and peacefully protest. You know, there were thousands of them out there protesting properly and peacefully. And I think what happens is they feel that they are not heard, and then a minority say, well, no one's listening to your peaceful protest. We'll take it to another level, and they will listen to us. And unfortunately, then it taints the great majority.
I couldn't agree more. Listen, great. Thank you for your support and your help this week. Lovely man, Roy Ram, former Met Police detective, 8 minutes to 10. Morning, Johnny.
Jezza, Layla Cunningham's saying she doesn't know where the tipping point is. I think that's because I don't think there is a tipping point, Jeremy, to be honest. I honestly now, I'm starting really to believe this is done on purpose, that the native people of this country are being purposely displaced, disowned. It's got to be done on purpose, because what other logical explanation is there for allowing these people in to literally come and just take over? They're just taking over. You know, they're running roughshod over the country. They can do what they want. And not only do they rape us, women and girls, but they're just raping the country economically, financially, and there's sod all we can do about it.
Well, we can keep talking about it and hope that we can change it. 7 minutes to 10. Let's get a quick look at some sport before we finish, Big M.
90 minutes in 90 seconds. From The Sun.
On the day the World Cup starts and all of us believe and hope that England... Don't be ridiculous. Josh Hall is an Arsenal supporter, so he's got a smile on his face, whereas I'm a West Ham fan, so I've got a... Don't smirk at me, you. Don't even go there. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, look at the smile. Look at the championship winners. We're going to the championship. Well done for winning the Premier League. Josh, last night, England warm-up, Costa Rica 3-0. I mean, look, tell me I'm cynical. I'm a football fan. I love football, OK? I love it. I was walking in this morning. I said to the security guards all over the front of the current bun, you know, come on, England boys, you can do it. Roar like lions. You know, I listen to talkSport, get all excited, and then we get knocked out in the quarterfinals, and I think I've done it again, and I promised myself I wouldn't. What do you think about our chances, genuinely, pal?
Well, look, it's a different team, really, isn't it? Under a new manager, it's going to be a different sort of thing to what we had under Gareth Southgate. I think last night's performance was a positive one. We got a good look at what I think will probably be close to the starting 11 that he chooses in the tournament, and they looked exciting. But there are teams in that tournament that you would imagine are better than England in terms of your Spains and Frances, but they're up there and they've got a chance, and you know, never rule them out.
For people tuning in who don't know, what's the first game today as the World Cup kicks off? What's the first match?
So it kicks off with Mexico versus South Africa tonight. So that's going to be the host one. You'd be forgiven for thinking the whole tournament was in the US and that the US would kick it off, because it's also in Mexico, US and Canada. It's Mexico, South Africa at 8 o'clock tonight.
It's very weird. And England's first game, Josh, is when?
Next Wednesday night against Croatia. So a tough challenge, tougher than the two warm-up games that they've done, and a game that you probably would expect them to win, but still some really talented players on that Croatia side, and they'll have to be well on it.
Good man. The Sun have everything you need. Orlando Bloom, brilliant headline on the back of the current bun today. Thank you to Josh and his team. Don't forget our sister station, talkSport. Everything you need to know. The World Cup. There's people out there that are covering almost every single game. It is the home of sport on radio. talkSport is at the World Cup, covering the World Cup. And do I think England can win? Dean thinks England can win. He's a QPR fan. Back in 3.
Valo Kalakane was a 32-year-old black man. He murdered 3 white people. Not once in any part of the conversation or reporting was there any racial profiling or even the question raised.
I don't want to drag this boy onto the issues, not onto Henry, and that is something that the family have asked for.
35 years I've been doing this. I've never seen a moment when most of mainstream media and most of mainstream politics was more out of touch with the country than over this issue. Quite extraordinary.
I think the trigger for this is people.
You think they just did it for no reason whatsoever? You think they rioted last night for no reason?
They took to the streets last night because they were thugs who wanted to engage in violence.
What about the peaceful protesters? There were peaceful protesters all.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Almost 10 o'clock. Can I say a massive thank you to the team? They've been amazing. Dino, first week in the can. Brilliant job. Thank you, Big M. Thank you, the excellent Tommy and Neha. You've been an amazing team. Thank you.
You'll only encourage them.
Well, Dino failed. Did you know that Dino actually failed to get into Towie and The Only Way is Essex, which is why he ended up here with the fake tan?
Do you know what, though? That is quite surprising, actually, because he looks the part.
He does look like... that was... Now,
Have you not seen his legs? Have you not seen his legs?
No, I don't want to see his legs.
Oh, there's been a lot of shorts